Rock 30, Bill and Jay's excellent podcast, with your hosts, Billy Quinton and Jay Odom. Tonight's special guest is The Ticket's Matt McClearin. Let's roll.
All right, we are back for season 2 of Bill and Jay's excellent podcast.
They didn't think we'd
Rock
make
30.
it back.
No, but here we are. And what better way to kick it off than to have Rockwall's own Matt McClearin join us from The Ticket. It's exciting to have him here. There's no better way to kick it off. And we just want to have fun. We just want to have, just a good time. So let's start with, what's your stance on abortion, Matt? Where do you...
All right, the hot topics right out of the gate.
I want to just ease into the hot topic.
This is what we told you to get you here. It's just fun.
Yes.
We may drink some beer, talk abortion.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we need the beer first, and then we can get into these
We're going to get some beer here pretty quick. We're going to get some beer here pretty quick.
Yeah, that's right.
But real quick, for those of y'all don't know, many of y'all know Matt grew up here, graduated Rockwall High in 1997. But if you don't know Matt from Rockwall, you definitely know him from The Ticket. I've been on The Ticket twice. Like, you've had 2 different terms, I guess you could say.
3, actually.
Is
3.
it 3?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they try to fire him, but then he comes back, apparently. And so here we are. But no, he's on The Invasion with Donovan Lewis. How long y'all been doing The Invasion?
It has been, we started in July of 2023, so however long that is, about 19, 20 months, something like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
With Donovan Lewis.
And
follows the Musers. Was it 9? It's 9 to 1.
9 to 1 now.
Yeah.
Yes.
It used to be a little shorter, right?
Right, yeah. It used to be 10 to 1, and then the Musers decided that they no longer wanted to do 4.5 hours of radio. So they are now doing 3, and we got that 4th hour, so 9 to 1.
So we all see how the totem pole works. Yeah,
100%, yes.
And that's every single day.
Yeah.
9 to 1.
9 to 1.
Days.
Well, Monday through Friday.
Yeah.
Monday through Friday.
Yeah.
So do you guys get together and say, hey, let's talk about this, or is it just, let's just go?
No, it's definitely.
Today I listened about 45 minutes to y'all buying a TV. Which was absolutely entertaining. I was like, I've never heard anybody talking about buying a TV that I'm like enthralled with.
Right.
Yeah.
So do you just roll with it?
No, usually, especially now that we've added the extra hour, your brain is kind of constantly thinking about the next day. Mm-hmm. So when I get home after the show, I try to give myself a couple hours to just kind of not think about it. And then at night, you start thinking about, okay, how are we laying this out for tomorrow? What do we have? We have an outline. So we have some segments that we know we're going to do same time every week that we kind of already have that are fun type segments. We call them staples, so you know what they're going to be. And then you kind of fill it in around there. And like tonight, I'll text the guys before I go to bed, probably about an hour before that, like, hey, and just lay it out, 9:10, 9:30, 9:50, so on. Here's what we got. Here's where we're open, thinking about this. What are you guys thinking about for tomorrow? And then we usually get to the station about an hour before the show starts, and then kind of, okay, what do we need, and what are you thinking about? And like, oh man, I was thinking, what about this angle on this, and that type of thing. And so you kind of build it out from there.
It's so good. Like just,
it is.
Just listening to a professional, and we're going to get there.
Well,
we're going to get there.
Well, here's the deal. So I was going to ask Matt. So you don't do it half-assed like me and Jay do. Just come in, and just start slinging. Like we come in, and Jay's trying to work the camera. You don't know how the camera works.
My ass is up in the air, plugging in wires. Tell everybody what you came into. In the shack.
Right. So I get here, right, and I'm sitting in here and I walk in. I'm like, oh, this is a beautiful setup. It really is. Like, this is a cool setup. You got the cameras, the TVs, and all this whole thing, and a professional board setup in this. I'm like, all right, ready to roll. And we sit down, and it's like, no, way too hot, the mic. And I'm like, whoa, my ears. Yeah. I'm like, guys. And then all of a sudden, we can't hear each other. And I'm like, man, what is happening here? We figured it out.
And welcome to every Yellow Jacket broadcast too, because that's basically what we do. We don't know. We don't go into it saying, I hope we don't have technical problems. It's going to be what will be our technical problem.
And win.
Yeah. Most time it's before we go on the air, and it's like, it's not working.
And people are like, I guess there's no show tonight.
Right. I guess they're not playing or whatever.
Yeah.
And so, okay, so we're going to get to this later, but we want to start it out because we need to have a beverage to drink. But you are a beer connoisseur, I would say.
I am.
I've watched your show. Tell us about your show.
The YouTube thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they wanted to start something, again, when you do radio, terrestrial radio, when you work for a corporation, they're always trying to sell everything. And so, the beer segment that I do is kind of a passion of mine that we can get into if you want. But it's one of those things, I think a lot of guys, whatever you do in life, your passion becomes sports, and you'll watch a lot of games to get away from whatever your main job is. And so my main job is sports. And so I was like, man, I got to have something. I need to get away from sports. Like, I need to do something where I'm not researching, I'm not studying and reading articles and watching games constantly. So my thing became, for whatever reason, craft beer. And that became a really passionate hobby. And so because of that, I think it was during COVID, we started the Just the Sip when I was on ESPN radio in Dallas.
Just a Sip. That's the
we call it Just a Sip on the show. And so it was really a way to kind of help out local craft breweries that were really struggling during COVID. I was like, man, a lot of my best friends are in the industry. A lot of guys that I hang out with either own breweries or are brewers and work in the industry in some capacity. Could I do this segment on the air where we sample beer from local DFW breweries? And they're like, yeah, that's awesome. Let's do it.
That's it.
And so when I went to Alabama, I did it there. And then when I came back and have been doing it on the ticket. And so the Sippin' on the Road thing on YouTube was something that they were able to go to a local distributor, and they kind of sold it with them. And we go out to those local breweries and kind of sit down with the brewer, kind of like this, where they have, and we have a film crew, our digital content guy, whatever his official title is, with Cumulus in Dallas.
But they know what they're doing, though, right?
Sometimes.
Okay.
I don't know.
All right.
I mean, no, he does. He does a really good job of it. And they just started doing that this year. And we've got some more coming up that we're planning out for this spring and summer. And it's just a way to kind of shine a light, I think, on a really great industry. And it's local. It's guys that I identify with a lot because I had a dream that I pursued that was a lot harder, I think, than I anticipated and took me a while to get where I wanted to go. But the craft beer world is really that. These guys that, for the most part,
they love it.
That start breweries, it's their dream. They have a dream that they're pursuing. They don't make a lot of money off of it. It's not, I'm going to be rich owning a brewery. This is my passion. I want to brew beer. And I love being around those guys. And so spreading the word with that and hanging out with those guys and just trying a lot of beer. And then I got really into it and really appreciate the craft part of craft beer and how these beers are brewed and the different hops and the malts and this whole thing that you go
crazy.
We knew you were into craft beer,
Right?
Yeah.
And so, and we always like to get our guests a gift. And,
This is very nice.
So this is something I doubt you've had.
Okay.
We went far and wide to try to get a very delicate.
Of course, we got to drink this out of glasses.
Right.
Billy, grab this glass.
Definitely glass.
So
we did have to. We had to search for this, but I don't think you're going to have tried this.
Really?
No.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
But we want to hear your professional opinion as you taste it.
All right.
Because I hear you speak. When I watch the show, it's like hints of raspberry coming from the barrel. Yeah. So I want to.
This is going to be like a domestic, isn't it?
No.
This is exotic.
I think this is this Ireland. Wait,
It could be. I think it's made in the United States. But
okay,
it's
all
domestic.
right.
It's domestic.
It is domestic. But
this is going to be.
It's got a great color.
I think it's bold.
Give it a swirl.
I'm going to say yes. Here it is. Yes, definitely a light American lager, 100% of some
I think
sort.
it's called Keystone.
Keystone.
Okay,
Light.
yes, from
Keystone.
the mountains in Colorado.
Is that how it's
How did you guys get this? This is incredible.
We had it
I had to
shipped
go
in
to
for
two
you.
7-Elevens to get this.
Did you get 30 stones for like $10?
Here's
Remember
what
that? Is that still a thing? I don't know.
I go buy it, and I'm
that's
standing
awesome.
there, and I'm at the counter, and I don't want anybody to know that I'm buying Keystone Light.
Okay.
You were like
But then
looking
that's when
behind you.
everybody shows up to the counter, and I feel like I'm explaining myself.
Well,
'cause
it's
the lady's
7-Eleven.
taking- Yeah,
7-Eleven, Billy. I mean,
it's
you're
such a
not.
high-class place. But, but I'm sitting there, and I got the Keystone Light, and I bought some other things just throw it around it to kind of cover it up, And the dude's standing there, and there's another guy. They're all like construction worker guys,
They're like, all right,
real
man.
guys.
Buying a 40 in a paper bag.
Yeah. And I'm there with the Keystone Light 6-pack, and I'm kind of trying to cover it. And then eventually I'm like, I'm just kind of I got to think. I'm trying to explain myself. Then finally I'm like, screw it. Let's just go. I never have drank Keystone Light. So
Really?
So what's your review?
Let's see. All right.
Yeah, I want to hear what you honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not a lot to that one.
No.
It's more like
Easy
a
to drink, would you say?
very easy
Very
to drink,
easy.
very light,
Easy on the palate.
crushable. This is one that you would drink like a water.
Exactly.
You know? There's not a lot in this. I would say that
4 more you can take home with you
thank
later.
you. It's very kind of you.
Yeah. So we're very excited that we got.
I could imagine what your fridge looks like. All these exotic cans of beer.
Man, I hate to say it. I have 2 beer fridges.
Really?
Yeah.
That's so cool, though. That is really cool.
Have you ever made beer?
I tried once. I'm not into cooking at all. I don't like to cook, and I'm not into science. And honestly,
it is a science,
the craft part of beer is a lot of science and a lot of cooking. You really got to like the building of it and how things go together and that type of thing. I love to taste it. I've been told I have a pretty good palate by people that do it. But man, the brew process it's slow. To me, it's boring. It's just not something I'm into as much as trying it and tasting it and that type of thing.
So you're don't tell me about the pregnancy, just show me the baby kind of thing.
Pretty much in this world, yes.
Yeah. Okay, so
I've never heard that.
yeah, I don't care about the 9 months. Just show me the baby.
Just give me the baby. Is that what kind of father you are?
Yeah, that's pretty much. I did my job 9 months ago, and let's just see what happens.
I think you like this. I mean, we're going to convert you to.
I don't know. You know what's funny is I started out.
It is like water.
It really is, man. I started out on a beer very similar to this, and some friends of mine. This would have been like 2011, 2012. We were going to Denver for a trip, and we were going to hike a couple of mountains and stuff. And I had a buddy who was into craft beer. He's like, "Hey, man, they don't have like Miller Lite or any of that at any of these places we're going to go." I was like, they'll have it. He's like, no, they make their own beer. They don't carry it. I was like, that everybody has it.
Right.
And so, of course, we go to a brewery. I'd never been to one. We walk in, and I'm the guy that walked up to the bar. I was like, some of my friends were like, you guys won't carry this, but like, what do you have? Like, I'm sure you got that or Kurz or something. And they're like, no, we don't have anything. I was like, seriously. And I didn't know. And of course they brewed something locally that was similar to that. And it took me a while, but I finally got into it and I was like, man. And I like stuff like this, I haven't had this in forever.
Well, now you have. So you can, like, when you do these other beers, the quality beers, you can taste like the hops and all that. I mean, is that something
sometimes
you
for
kind
sure
of trained yourself, or is that just something that comes naturally?
Yeah, some of them I think are really distinct.
Okay.
That you kind of know, like they'll give off different flavors that you can pick up immediately. And yeah, to a certain degree, hop wise, you can kind of tell like I mean, it's almost like wine, as silly as it sounds, like where you can say, oh, this is probably a New Zealand hop. And you may not know the exact hop, but you can kind of get the region it came from. Or if it's like a more piney type hop, it's a Pacific Northwest hop, and different types of hops that are from different regions of the world that kind of give off a different kick. And some of them that are hybrids and stuff that you may be like, oh, maybe it's this. And some like, oh, it used to be, and then they bred it with this, and now it's this. But you're close, that type of thing. I mean, it's really silly. I mean,
do you like a hoppy beer?
Yeah. I like really good beer. But yes, I love IPAs. I really love stouts, like big, full-bodied stouts. I love this style, but crafted locally, like a light lager or a Pilsner, like a lager beer that is really, really good, that has a lot of high-quality flavors in it, is a really good beer that you can crush and drink a lot of, that I enjoy very much.
This is like a horrible pizza. It's still pizza, so you're going to drink it.
It's still pizza.
Exactly.
But,
yeah.
But you can imagine, the
worst pizza is still, all right, it's pizza. Yeah. But so I went with Rodney Webb, who's the coach of the Hawks now.
Traitor.
He is a traitor, and we'll talk about that in a minute.
Call him Benedict Arnold.
Yeah, I call him Benedict Arnold. He came in one day, just when he took the job, he goes, so when we're not playing Rockwell, you're rooting for the Hawks, right? And I was like, dude, I'm a Yellow Jacket. He
thought you were going to convert for him?
I said, when Benedict Arnold went over to the British, do you think he went back to his American base and said, you're going to root for us when we don't fight y'all, right? You're going to root for the British? Like, no, he didn't ask for them to root for the British. Yeah. So anyway, we went up to Madison to go watch Braden Locke, the quarterback here at Rockwell. It was at Wisconsin no longer, but he was there.
He was on the show.
He was on the show with us. And we went up there and had a beer called the Spotted Cow. Mm-hmm. And it was the best beer.
From
and I can't tell
New Glarus.
Is that what it is?
Yeah. You said, I bet he'll know it.
I know.
And you know
it was unbelievably good. And I can't tell you why. I don't know the reasons.
It's
but
quality.
It was smooth. It was really tasty. It was one of those beers. It wasn't like this water, but it was like a beer that like...
drinkable.
Yeah, very drinkable that you're like, I think I've had like 6 in the last hour and I didn't realize,
But the quality's there.
Oh,
the flavors,
man, it was smooth. It was great.
Yeah,
it was
you can. I mean, honestly, like if we went down the street to like Siren Rock, and I don't know if they have a light lager on right now, but they'll they'll have some sort of a American style lager, and you put it next to something like this that was similar, I think you'd choose the craft beer just because the quality of ingredient is a higher level. And they'll taste almost very, very similar. And you can enjoy it. It's really light. It's like this where you can crush it and drink a few, but it's just a better beer. The pizza analogy is actually really good.
It's like I'm going to drink it. You know?
Yeah.
Now, do you ever? So as I've watched the show, you appear to love all of them or like all of them. Have you ever been like, I do not like this?
Yeah, a couple of times. But
What do they say?
man, it just depends. Like if I think the brewery puts out a beer, if you tell me this is a raspberry beer with cinnamon in it and marshmallow and coconut,
Pickle and
yeah, whatever, right? I may not like it, but I'm like, okay, well, you're telling me that's what's in it. I get that.
Yeah.
So I may not like it, but you nailed what you were going for.
Exactly. That's a good point.
And the only time I will say, and I try to tell a lot of people this, to me, bad beer is very rare. You can have a beer you don't like, that you don't care for, but an actual bad beer is a beer that would have a flaw in it from fermentation or canning process and different things like that, that you really got to, like I had to train myself to pick up some of those flaws and understand what they were in beer, which if you're judging beer or something like that on that level, you'd be like, oh, that's off. Like that's actually a bad beer versus, man, I don't like raspberry. Yeah, this beer's horrible. Well, it says raspberry on the can. I mean, what did you not want it to have raspberry? You know,
And it doesn't mean it's not a good beer.
Right.
It's just not for you.
All right, because I don't like any fruit in the beer.
Yeah.
I'm not a fruity guy.
Hey,
Fun fact, Rodney Webb drinks fruity beers.
Wait, what's the beer they put in
Football
orange
coach
in?
drinks fruity beers.
Oh, Blue Moon?
Blue Moon.
Blue Moon.
I love a Blue Moon.
There you go.
I love
See, so
Blue
if
Moon.
But
you
it
like
has
that-
orange in it. Is it orange or something?
Yeah, like an orange
Zanata's always
slice.
puts an orange in it. I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah, so you can do that. So if you like that, that's basically an American wheat. So you could find that style at a local brewery that you might even enjoy more.
Yeah.
Corona, they always have the lime. I don't want the lime in my Corona. I just drink the Corona.
Personally,
straight.
I don't either.
Yeah.
And that's a Mexican lager. And there's some really good Mexican lagers being brewed locally.
Yeah.
It's
Really
like steak
good.
too. I think some people like a lot of seasoning on the steak. You know, when you get a steak and they
Yeah, you just want the meat.
I want the meat.
Like the flavor of the meat should be good enough.
A ton of
Yeah.
rub on it. I want the meat.
But please tell me you don't order well done.
No. My dad was so adamant about it.
Medium rare.
Okay.
Yeah.
You
And
can
if
judge a man by the way he
Right.
orders a steak.
I agree in it. And depending on the quality of it, I'll do rare.
Yeah, exactly.
I've done
Yeah,
that.
if we're at a good place
but I
that
worry
knows
about
what they're
worms.
doing,
Have you heard about?
they'll go away.
I mean, it'd be all right.
Yeah.
It's high quality meat.
It's
Come on.
it's worth the food. But my dad would get he would walk out if somebody ordered well done.
I'm gonna have to
steak, he
drink
was
this
done.
now.
Yeah, I know. You're gonna have to.
See?
But okay, so let's go back to let's go back to where it all began.
Yeah. An old Rockwall boy, which is crazy.
Got a Rockwall
There you
boy
go.
here. So you were mentioning you're born 1979. You graduate in 97.
Right.
So let's go through the. So where'd you go to elementary school?
So my family moved to Rockwall when I was in 7th grade.
Okay.
So I went to elementary school in Plano
Oh wow. Okay.
at Carlisle Elementary, and then we moved to Mississippi for a couple of years. And when I came back, we moved back to Plano. Did like I had my dad moved around a lot.
So what'd your dad do?
He was in sales.
Oh, there you go.
For a couple of different companies.
Okay.
And so we did like 2 years in Mississippi, moved to I forgot, Richardson. So I did half my 6th grade year at Yale Elementary School in Richardson. Then we moved back to Plano. I did half my 6th grade year at Schimmelpfennig Middle School, and then half my 7th grade year at Schimmelpfennig Middle School, and then we moved to Rockwall.
So you were kind of all over.
Yeah. And
Was
so
that rough?
yeah, at the time it was. I mean, especially doing half of your 6th grade year in one school and the other half in another
Which is
school.
the worst years.
Yeah,
Right.
6th,
Ever.
7th, 8th grade is just rough. already.
And that was rough, but I will say, and we were talking about my buddy Brandon Vestal,
Yeah.
who some of you may, if you're watching this, may know who that is, but his family, born and raised Rockwall guy, and so I moved here literally the day of my 13th birthday. We moved into our house out in Heath, the day I turned 13. So my first day of 7th grade at whatever they call this thing down the road now. It used to be Williams Middle School.
Oh, it's still Williams, but it's not there
They
anymore.
moved it.
Yeah, well, it's like an administration building or
It's
something.
administration
now.
building
Yeah,
now,
So
yeah.
my
Yeah.
first day of school right
So you
out
went to
there.
Williams there at the old building, yeah.
I went to Williams, and my first class was an English class. I'll never forget this. My teacher's name was Miss Harris, and they go, "Hey, this is Matt. He just moved here. Brandon, can you show him where we're at?" And Chicago Bulls, of course, were awesome at the time. I had a
Right.
Bulls shirt on. I just walk up to Brandon and I go, "Bulls rule."
That was your first word.
And so that's
Friends forever.
friends forever, man. And
I love it.
so I did Rockwall from then through my graduation, and my mom and dad were here My middle brother, Chris, graduated Rockwall in 2000, and they were still living here then. And they moved around a little bit. And my younger brother, man, he really moved around a bit. And then my mom and dad finally got tired of it. And my dad asked my mom once, where do you want to live? And my mom said, I want to go back to Rockwall. And because they've been in their house now for like 15, 16 years. They had a house before that for a few years. So they've been back for at least 20 years.
Are they in Rockwall or Heath or where?
Yeah, they live in Fate, I guess it is.
Oh, Fate. Okay. Yeah, Rockwall area there.
Yeah,
okay.
Essentially.
Yeah. Okay. Very nice. So, Brandon.
Very well.
I know Brandon, and what a good guy.
He's
really
a great
good
guy. Love Brandon. Love Brandon.
Teacher of the Year. We were talking about this before. My wife got Teacher of the Year. I forget what year it was. I think it was 2012 or something.
That sounds about right.
But and then he got the year after. And we talked about if you're Teacher of the Year, then you drive a Prius.
Yeah.
You get a Prius
It
for like
was
a year.
awesome.
Yeah.
And it said like Teacher of the Year on it and stuff,
Yeah.
didn't it?
It's all these graphics.
Totally painted. Yeah.
It's all these graphics on it.
Was she
Teacher of the Year.
embarrassed to drive it?
She wasn't. I was.
Did you ever get stuck
in
in it?
I had to drive it sometimes. The big
you
thing
imagine?
they do a
No.
big ceremony. This is before, like now electric cars can get up and go. You don't have any problem with electric cars. Back then it was still like
But are the trucks getting on y'all's nerves?
the
EV trucks?
Cyber
Yeah.
trucks, the electric trucks. Yeah,
It's just-
kind of. There's weird.
Cyber
It just says
trucks.
douchebag to me.
Yeah.
They look like they're out of RoboCop, like
Yeah.
original RoboCop.
it is
from
It's a
the
big
very
80s.
jump.
futuristic.
It's a big jump.
It's very
I
bizarre.
don't know
looking.
why I just get annoyed when I say that.
Well, but when we were in that Prius,
That what you drive?
No, I do not
go look
drive.
outside, Jay. See what he's
I do
driving.
not drive a Cybertruck.
But back then, the Prius too, like electric cars now are normal sized cars. Back then, they're
Yeah.
like little pregnant roller skates kind of thing.
Yeah,
they were just
yeah.
little ball. So we had to go. They would. I don't know if they still do it. We'd have to go to the Ranger game, and they would honor all the teachers of the year at the Ranger game. Like just before it, they bring them all on the field and they put them on the big screen. So you have to drive the Prius there. And this is the first time I'd driven an electric car on the highway.
Man, they're weird.
Dude.
Back then they were really weird.
Oh, and it was so weird.
I've
and
never
you're
been in one.
scared to death. Like, speaking of trucks, every one of them is going to crush you.
Yeah, because
That's
you
all
feel so
think.
small and they're so quiet.
They were quiet. You
You're
never
like,
know when it was
is
on.
the car on?
Yeah.
Death
yeah.
trap.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Y'all know
It's
what
weird.
my first car was?
Huh.
See if you remember this. A Suzuki Samurai.
I remember those, yeah.
It
like a Jeep kind of?
It was.
Yeah.
And if we were going uphill and I had 4 buddies in the car,
Yeah.
3 jumped out and had it was pathetic.
Yeah, they had no power. There were little
no
Jeeps.
power. Yeah.
What was your first car? You remember?
Mine, yeah, my dad gave me his car at the time, and it was a 1984 Delta 88 Oldsmobile.
Oh, nice.
We called it
Okay.
the Beast.
I like that.
Yeah, it was massive, man.
Yeah.
It was.
That'd be cool.
Did you
today.
use it? Because I had to take my driving test. My first one was in a truck, which was fine, but I failed it. So I had to. The next day, you had to go back and
What'd
do
you
it.
do wrong?
I didn't come to a full stop at a stop sign. I just kind of did a whole roll.
Always
and
a
then-
rule breaker.
I know. I'm a rebel. Jay.
It happens, man.
Yeah, and so, but we had a Caprice Classic, kind of the same.
Okay,
kind of
yeah.
The parallel parking. Let me ask you, because that was a nightmare in the long cars doing the parallel parking. And this is before you had the cameras and crap, And I just remember that being a nightmare.
I was horrible at it, but I learned one year I went to college. I went to a couple different schools actually before I went to Texas State. And one campus I went to, basically the whole campus was parallel parking. Now, that was after I didn't have the Beast anymore. And so I learned how to parallel park really, really well from
Where's
doing
this
that.
at?
Howard Payne University.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't
Okay.
know why. Actually, I do know why I went there, but man, that it wasn't for me.
Shout out to Amy Anderson, Howard Payne alum.
Is
Yeah,
she really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was not for me. I'll just say that.
That is a kind of a big. Did you go to Texas State after
Yes.
Howard Payne?
So
Yeah. that's
Tell
a-
us your whole. I want to hear the whole story.
Okay.
Well, we hadn't finished talking about Rockwall. High
Right. We
School.
want to get
Okay, yeah.
Rockwall in first.
But then I want to make sure we hit the
Sure,
school.
yeah.
oh, yeah. The journey.
That's right.
Yeah, the journey was insane.
Because I've got
Sometimes
some
when I
notes
tell it.
here. I found a couple things, and
All
you've
right.
been everywhere.
All right.
Okay. Talk about your friends. We talked about Brandon. His daughter Faith played basketball. Very good athlete.
Oh, yeah. She was really good.
She was really good.
How old?
Man, she would be 20 something. Man,
Yeah.
She's in her 20s.
yeah, she's 23 maybe now. I think that's right.
You don't look that old
Do it to have a girl that
to have
old?
Yeah.
Yeah,
You don't even have kids yet, right?
Are you
don't have any
14?
kids,
No,
right?
I have a son.
You have a son.
He just turned 14.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh wait, I thought this was your daughter.
No.
this is
my
Brandon's
This is
daughter.
Brandon's daughter. But Brandon and me are the same age.
Yeah,
so.
that's where I thought you were
Okay.
going. They're same age.
No,
so
I was like, you've got a 23-year-old. I mean, I
No,
guess you could.
I don't know.
14 years old.
yeah.
I could. Yeah, she would be.
But Faith was really good. Really good ball player.
Yeah, she was good.
Yeah. So then you have you mentioned Nick Loylis,
Yeah, Nick.
and then who are some of the other friends?
Yeah, so it was Man, Nick and Brandon to this day are still my two best friends. And I grew up with them and met them both when we were like 13, 14. I think I met Nick when we were 14 doing theater together.
Open up with Bull's Rule with him too?
No, we were doing theater back then at Rockwall High School.
Who is this?
Yeah, so those guys right there. I'm obviously in the middle. Brandon's in the bucket hat, and Nick is the other guy. And that is our senior year of college, actually.
Where'd y'all go?
South Padre.
South Padre.
Yeah, South Padre Island. Yeah, in the background, yeah. So we had a really good time, and I've known those guys for forever. And still, like I said, to this day, I mean, my very best friends. And hung out with them a lot. And I grew up out in the Rush Creek neighborhood in Heath.
Yeah.
Is where we lived for years and years. And so there was a group of guys that I hung out with that were neighborhood guys that were all a year younger than me. They graduated in 98 from Rockwall and hung out with them a lot. So that was kind of
y'all confused. It was before we had Heath High School.
Yeah. Way before
everybody
that.
went to Rockwall. Everybody went to
Rockwall.
Rockwall. Because now you say somebody grew up or lives in Heath, they're not going to Rockwall. But
Right.
No, I would have gone to Heath.
Right.
And
You got lucky.
I did get lucky, but I will say, from where we lived in Heath to the high school in Rockwall was, without traffic, a 20-minute drive. I mean, because I was like, really? This is what we do out here.
One.
Huh?
Yeah.
But you didn't think anything of it back then. It was just the way that it was.
Yeah.
And then they put that fake high school out there, and it's like, really? You guys have it easy.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
So you definitely still root for the Yellow Jackets.
100% I do.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I'm very Rockwall loyal, man.
Yeah.
Now, does high school sports
Unlike
come up on your
others.
show?
Every so often, because the guy I do my show with, Donnie, he is the sideline reporter for, it was DeSoto, and I think this year he did Duncanville.
See, that
or maybe I got
confused
it backwards.
me because when we did where did he go to high school?
He went to someplace in downtown Dallas that didn't have sports. It was like some engineer high school or something.
Okay.
I forget,
Because
Dallas
I thought,
Business School. I forget the name of it.
oh wow, he's big time.
He carried a little briefcase
Yeah,
around. It was
exactly.
hilarious.
Has to wear a tie.
It was funny.
Has business cards.
Yeah.
He shows up for high school. Because I know he used to do DeSoto, like you said, but
Yeah.
when we did the Rockwall Duncanville game this year, Donnie was next to us in the other booth.
Yeah, that's
Was
what it
that
was.
the
That's what I
playoff
thought.
game?
Yeah, it's a playoff game where it's hard to go to a playoff game when you know
Duncanville. What are you gonna do?
it ain't going to be pretty.
Before it started, it looked like a bunch of college kids.
Right.
And
right.
Rockwall.
And let's just compare the booths too. You go into our booth, it's me and David. There's one camera that is over there, and we have our little mixer. We go over to Donovan's booth. I'm pretty sure there's 34 cameras they were using.
Big
Six
sound,
guys.
sounds.
There was big, mixers and
It's
things.
big time,
everywhere.
man.
Oh, it was
Yeah.
big time. I mean, it was huge. It was great. Wanted to stop in and say hi, but you couldn't get in. I mean, it was just so crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so of course Duncanville did their work. And,
Now, you've been on the ticket a few times. Some of your.
yeah, we were Homer Calls a few times.
Okay.
We've been on there.
Yeah, back when Bob
5
and Dan were
times.
doing that.
Yes.
Yeah. Such a great segment.
We've been on there, 5
That was a
times
good
for Homer
segment.
Call.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there was one where Rodney was going to be a guest because one of the Homer Calls is Rodney used to do the dual punter. We would put 2 punters back there, and it never has worked out. It's never worked out.
Y'all need to get him on and just dog
Well,
him.
he was supposed to be on there, and something
Dog
happened.
it.
I forgot what it was. Something happened. Somebody got fired, like a coach or something, and they had to cancel it. But he was going to go on and explain the dual punter
Of why
and
they're
he never
doing that,
why
yeah.
he was doing that because our call was I'm building it up like dual punter. They don't know what's coming, and our punter shanked it for like a 4-yard punt. And I remember Dan was like, wow, that'll show him that 4-yard punt with the 2 guys, and so anyway, yeah. But, so let's, where did you hang out? Like, what'd you do when you're growing up? Like, where's the
Man, I
hangout
was
place?
really into church, and so we did a lot with Lake Point,
Yeah.
and that was my group, and we were doing every Sunday, we went to youth group every Wednesday, so a lot of our hanging out was just through stuff like that, and we played a lot of street hockey at the time.
Oh, wow.
Got really big. Whenever the Stars moved to town, it got really big, and it happened to be right when we were going to high school, essentially. And there used to be a bunch of street hockey tournaments up at the high school that we would do, and we played street hockey in parking lots at the high school. I was really into theater, so that took up a lot of my time. I thought I was going to be an actor for a long time. That's originally why I went to school for was theater, and I was a theater major.
I wanted to bring this up. We recently had an abortionist on the show.
Right.
Oh, Thibodeau?
Amy
Yeah. It got
Yeah, I
heated.
saw that.
It got a little heated.
Got heated.
Anyway, she told me
She's
that
still wrong, but I was happy that she was on the show.
She's not here to defend herself.
She's not.
She said you're the best actor she's ever worked with.
Oh, that's really?
And she's directed. She's,
Yeah.
I mean,
So-
she's a liberal. She knows acting.
And she does
Yeah,
acting.
yeah.
But she said you're what's it called when you don't know what you're going to do and they throw something at you?
Improv.
Yeah,
Improv.
Yeah.
She said you're the best improv guy in the world.
Well, I appreciate that.
We want to run. We want you to do a little improv here.
Oh, wow. Do we?
So this is where we're going to just throw something at him, and you're going to.
Okay.
So we'll do that later. We're going to see.
You're surprising me now. I didn't know we were doing this.
But no, when you audition, what do you have a go-to monologue?
Man, I haven't done theater in years because I did some stuff with Rockwall Community Playhouse just for fun. I did a few plays.
Yeah. Is that where you met Amy?
Yeah,
Okay.
doing stuff like that. But that would have been, man, the last time I did a show was probably maybe 15 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Can you give us a little monologue? Something. Shakespeare?
Do you do Shakespeare?
I have done Shakespeare.
Have you really?
Yes.
Let us hear something. I want to.
Is there something you know? I mean, we're
trying to
putting him on the
think.
spot.
We are putting you on the spot.
like nothing that I can really remember other than the Friends, Romans, Countrymen, you know.
Yeah,
but I think the thing with Shakespeare is most people read it and you think it's supposed to be a poem, and you read it in your head like a certain structure, but you have to realize that that's the way that people spoke back then. So it'd be, friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. I come to bury Caesar, not to praise him. The good that men do is often tarred with their bones, while the evil lives long after. So let it be with Caesar. Something like that.
That is outstanding. That was really good.
Well, it's like you weren't even acting. It's like
that's really good.
That is a talent.
Yeah.
You're born with that talent. It's like singing.
I mean, I was going to do a scene from Varsity Blues, but now I can't even do that after Shakespeare.
Yeah, and sometimes like I used to have a couple that I can't remember anymore that, I mean, when I was in it, like I said, I mean, that's what I did in high school.
Did you study?
Yeah. So
studied
from
and you-
freshman through senior in high school, I did all the plays at Rockwall. My senior year, I don't know if you guys, you probably do. He's been around Rockwall forever. Matt Mershon.
Yeah.
He was the guy my junior year, and he was the theater guy and the lead in all the plays. And then my senior year, I was that guy, and I was the lead in all the plays
So
in this
you
whole
were
thing.
the sports guy that did theater.
Yeah, in a sense.
Like Glee. You know,
Maybe, but-
do you know the show Glee, and they had the singers, but they also played football.
Now, you played basketball.
I played basketball. Right there. There
Oh
it
my
is.
gosh!
And we've got questions.
Look at this
about
guy. That's a freshman in high school.
Okay, I was going to say, that doesn't look varsity.
First of all, is that really you?
Jeez, man.
And were you going hiking after practice? I mean,
For some reason, I thought those shoes were badass. Like Nike had just put them out.
Are
They were
those
mustard
basketball
yellow.
shoes?
you look
Yes.
like, yeah, it's
They're
crazy.
horrible.
Those are bad.
Now, believe it or not, I didn't play much. But I was a really good shooter. And so at the time, Joe Longino was the head coach of
Coach
Rockwall.
Joe, love Coach Joe.
So Longino had played high school baseball for my grandfather at Richardson High School when Longino was in high school.
Okay.
My grandfather was a baseball coach, longtime baseball coach at Richardson High School. And so Coach Stovall, I don't know if you guys remember him coach baseball here for a while.
Yeah, definitely.
With Tarpley.
Yeah.
And so they all knew my grandfather. And Longino was like, I love that you're in basketball. And he flat out told me once, he was like, man, you're not quick. You can't play the post, but I'll put you on the team because out of respect to your grandfather, basically.
So he didn't sugarcoat this. It was
No, man, no. And so my sophomore year, he set me down because Annie was our musical that year, and I got cast as President Roosevelt and a couple other side roles, and I really wanted to do.
Were you in the wheelchair?
Yeah. And Becky Henderson was our theater teacher back then. And I really wanted to do the show. And Coach Longino, I'll never forget this. He sat down and he goes, look, if you really want to do the theater thing, you should probably do that. He goes, I'll put you on the team. I'll let you play JV. I'd made the JV team, made it. He goes, but you're not going to play really unless you get in a situation where we're really down. I really appreciated that. And I told him, I think I'd really like to try the theater thing. He goes, okay. And so I stopped playing basketball at that time and just devoted myself to theater. And in my junior and senior year especially, that's all I did. I did every show that Rockwall did. Wow. Really did a lot with that.
And so you wanted to do this with your life?
Yeah, I wanted to. I thought I was going to go off and be an actor. Mm-hmm. And so
when you chose a college, you're looking at the dramatic
Yeah.
arts and all that stuff at a college. And the first college you went to, was that Howard Payne?
No, I actually went to Collin County Community College.
Okay, all
and
right.
part of the reason why is, and I don't know if people remember this at all, this would have been in 96. They were the first community college to win the American Collegiate Theater Festival, which is a huge deal. And the year before that I went, they had a couple guys that went to Juilliard the next year. The year after I was there, there's a guy, and you may know this name, named Michael Urey, who was a Plano kid. He's
I know that
currently
name.
on.
Yeah. Who is
he's
that?
currently
Pull
on the
him up.
TV show Shrinking.
Okay.
And so Michael Urie, big time actor now, he went to Juilliard. And so Collin County was putting out some really good talent, and their theater director at the time was a guy named Brad Baker. And I was the Scarecrow in Wizard of Oz my senior year at Rockwall. And Brad had come and watched the show and recruited me to do theater. No, Michael Urie, not that guy.
That's Ely, yeah.
Yeah, his name is Urie, I think, Michael Urie.
There it is.
Yeah, that guy, that kid right there, yeah. So he went to Collin County.
He was on the fashion show, Ugly Betty.
Yeah, he's been on a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
He's currently on the TV show Shrinking.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so he was at Plano, like just Plano Senior High. And I remember seeing him when we went to UIL. He was in Plano's UIL as a junior. And I remember seeing that dude perform in high school and be like, man, that kid's got something. Sure enough, now you look at him. But yeah, I really wanted to do that. And Brad, granted, Collin County, it's not like it's cheap. I mean, it's not like it's expensive. It's cheap. But he was like, hey, we'll give you a scholarship. Come do theater in our program. We're legit. And I looked into it, and I was like, all right, yeah.
You do it.
And so I went, and man, it's probably like this in sports. When you are the dude in high school, and I mean, Becky Henderson came and was like, what musical you want to do your senior year? And I was like, I either want to play Willy Wonka in Chocolate Factory, or I want to play the Scarecrow in Wizard of Oz. And she goes, let's do Wizard of Oz. Like, all right. Like that type, like I knew I was going to get one of the main roles, and I knew I was going to be the lead in UIL and all.
But they let you pick.
I kind of.
Yeah.
So you sing? I'm not going to make you sing.
No.
But
He's all worried. No,
he's like, nope, I don't.
Proud Mary, now, go.
No, and I don't. And it's funny because the song, the Brain song that you have to sing,
Yeah.
they changed the tone or the pitch of it or whatever to help me because I couldn't hit the weight right.
Down
Key.
4 semitones.
Whatever it was, yeah. I was like, I can't hit that. And
You're
like,
what they call an actor that sings.
Yes.
There's singers that act,
Yeah,
but you're an
I
actor
could
that
not
sings.
sing.
Yeah.
So I went to Collin County, and you just have this idea of I'll be the lead here. This is what I do, And so the first play had a couple plays that I got into that I really enjoyed, and then like the big production that fall at Quad C. I forget the name of the play, but it was some Russian thing, and I thought I'll get the lead guy. I didn't get it, and man, I was like, what the hell? So I went and I talked to Brad about it, and he goes, yeah. He goes, I thought your audition was great. I go, I don't understand. Like, why did I get this role? And he told me, he's like, well, we had already cast the role of the father, and the guy we cast, he looks more like that guy, and he did great in his audition, so we went with him. And for whatever reason, I could not understand that. Drove me insane. So I got really pissed, stopped like auditioning for stuff and all that. I was like, I'll show you guys. Very immature.
So you took it very hard.
Very hard.
Like,
very immature.
Yeah.
And I was supposed to go to New York with a group of friends that all ended up going, and I backed out. And I was like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore, and that whole thing. And it was like, whoa, it's me. And, at the time you don't know because you're just a kid, even though you're 18. And I just didn't handle it the right way. And so I was trying to find a way. That's when I transferred to Howard Payne because Brandon and Tim, they wanted to be youth ministers.
Okay, yeah.
So they go to Howard Payne.
Yeah.
So when you are in community college and your friend's like, hey, come visit us in college, I don't know if it matters where they go. It's badass.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
it's better than community college, no matter where you're
going. I
going.
went and visited Brandon and Tim for a couple of weekends. I was like, oh my God, Brownwood is awesome.
Yeah.
I want to go to Howard Payne. My parents were like, really? I was like, yes, I love it there. And so I go and got into the theater program there and was doing all that. And man, like within 2 months, I was like, why am I here?
Yeah.
And that's when I started to branch out. I will say that's what got me into radio. Mm-hmm. And I do wonder if I hadn't gone to Howard Payne, would I ever have gotten into radio? Because the first time I ever did radio, I had a buddy who was in theater with me, and he was like, hey, the student station here is auditioning for radio shifts or whatever. You should go and audition. You have a really good voice. I was like, man, I'd never done this. I don't know. And he's like, no, you should try it. I was like, all right. So I go and I audition. And for me, it's like this. You go in a little studio and you sit down. I said, man, this is all right. Okay. I think this is what I want to do. And they give you like a little script or whatever. Hey, read this, like you're bringing in a song and stuff. And I leave the studio, and I wish I could remember the guy's name. I've always felt bad about this my whole life because I can't remember this guy's name, who was the student advisor at that school. And he comes out and he goes, you've never done this before? And I remember saying, I was like, is that bad, huh? He goes, it was that good. I was like, really? He's like, you've never been in a microphone. I was like, well, I do theater and stuff. He goes, yeah, we'll give you a shift.
You got a voice, yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, wow, okay. And so I ended up doing, as a sophomore in college, that fall semester, a 6 to 9 morning show every single day on this student radio station.
Is that the photo you sent us?
The photo I sent y'all was when I was at Southwest Texas State.
Yeah. Okay.
When I was in college, because once I transferred, so this picture right here was my senior year of college, and this goes back to a couple of my advisors. So I had a guy at KTSW 89.9 was my station that I worked at Texas State.
Yeah.
And Bob Schrader was our student advisor, and then Dan Schumacher. And Bob told me, he was like, hey, there's this national award they're giving away from the American Association of Radio Talk Show Hosts. And they all vote on stuff. And if you win, you get flown to New York and you have dinner with all the, like Bill O'Reilly and Sean Hannity and all these guys, and you get a $5,000 scholarship. And I was like, I'm not going to win that. And he goes, well, just send it in. He's like, you can't win if you don't send it in. I was like, well, what am I supposed to send in? He goes, well, just do, because I was doing a bunch of different stuff at KTSW. He's like, send in a little example of all this and your production work and all this. I was like, whatever. So he goes, if you don't do it, I'm going to do it. I was like, okay, I'll do it. And so I send it in, and I completely forgot about it. And he calls me, he's like, you won. I was like,
oh, wow.
What do you mean?
That's so cool.
And so that's what that picture is. That's me with my award there. That's me at KTSW in college. But that previous picture was me in New York when they presented our awards. And that was crazy because I had dinner. They present me on stage. Like Neil Bortz is in the crowd. Back when Alan Combs was alive, when it was Hannity and Combs, they were there. Bill O'Reilly. I'm having dinner at a table like this, like a round table. On one side is Bill O'Reilly, and on the other side is Gloria Allred.
And you're
19, I'm 21 in that picture, I think. Something like that.
So cool.
And
how were they? Were they?
They were very kind to me.
Yeah.
They were awesome. My experience personally with Bill O'Reilly was fantastic.
So this is probably when Bill O'Reilly was at the top for a while.
He was doing.
He was
the
rated
guy.
#1 for a while.
Yeah, he had his radio show and all that, and that's when all that talk radio stuff was huge with them. And he was so kind to me, just personally, and however long the dinner lasts, and they give you your award, and it was cool because all these program directors come up to you afterwards, and they're like, "Hey, here's my card. Give me a call when you graduate, and let's see if we can have something for you."
Wow!
And of course, I call every single one of them.
There's the expression of Bill O'Reilly go there.
Yeah.
Every photo, is that how just every time?
Yeah, I mean, he was really kind, and
he writes. He has books he's written.
His
Killing Reagan.
Yeah, I've read them all.
I have two, and they're great.
They're fascinating.
Fascinating.
I just finished one called Legends and Lies that he did about the American West.
Yes, I've read that one.
And they're really well researched.
He goes in depth. Yes,
right.
He has great research, and he does. Yeah, Killing Reagan. He has Killing Jesus, and what it
Really?
is,
I didn't know
it's
that.
all the details leading up to the attempted assassination of Reagan. He does JFK, and it's from every angle.
It's incredible.
Really
the research on there, like you'll read some things in there that I've never heard before.
Exactly.
Really in-depth stuff.
Yeah.
That is cool.
Yeah, I highly recommend those books. They tried to make a movie out of the Killing Jesus one, and it didn't convert.
I didn't know that,
it didn't do well. But the book
there's
is
a few.
fascinating because the Jesus, Killing, because it's basically all the days leading up to his crucifixion and what's going on, what the Romans are doing, what the disciples are doing. It's crazy. It's really good. It's really
Last
good.
thing I want to say to you about theater, I need you to me and your long-standing argument on is something theater or not.
Wait,
Do you know the movie that you always say this is a musical theater?
Oh,
Tell him.
What a musical is. What's a musical?
Yes, and
I think Blues Brothers is a musical.
he calls the movie Blues. And I'm like, no, they don't.
I wouldn't consider that really a musical.
But there's
it's a
music.
movie with music in it.
Yeah,
and
they
you have
dance.
some
But you're not
songs.
going to see that on Broadway. There's no book.
They put
There's-
everything on Broadway now.
Yeah.
But
This is not a musical.
that's a musical. That and
Phantom of the Opera.
that's a
Phantom
musical.
of the
too.
Opera is hard.
Yeah.
100% a musical.
Yeah.
Cats. Anything Andrew
So you're
Lloyd
not
Webber,
you're
of
not
course.
taking my side.
You don't think Phantom of the Opera is a musical?
No. On Blues Brother.
You think it is a musical?
No, he does.
No, he's
I-
against me.
Yeah.
He thinks
Okay,
he doesn't think
so
it's a
we-
musical.
okay.
Yeah,
You're really confused today, Jay.
Well, I felt like you were kind of saying, well, it kind of
No, like
is.
Wicked is a musical.
Yeah. But also a movie. But
Right.
it's a musical. Okay.
But even the
So
even
now
the movie,
you stand
But okay,
corrected.
in Blues Brothers, they will like to me a musical is everybody's talking, then somebody breaks into song for whatever reason.
Like La La Land.
Okay, I've never
La
seen
La
that.
Land is a musical.
But it's not a
But the Blues Brothers did
musical
it too.
theater.
It's not musical theater, but you can have like Wicked is even the movie version is a musical.
Yeah, you're right. Is that what
like
you
Wizard
meant?
of Oz, the movie is a musical.
But what is the difference then? Because the Blues Brothers, they go into the store with Ray Charles there. And
It does say musical action comedy film.
there we go.
But John Landis isn't a musical director. I mean, that's
But Hitchcock did a musical.
So when you think of something in musical theater, it originates to be on stage, which is very different from a movie.
Okay.
You don't get close-ups.
So
you don't get cuts.
So we're talking movie and theater as opposed to the actual substance of the movie or whatever, the script or whatever. Okay. Because I can see that. I can see that if something's built for the theater as opposed to being built for a film.
Okay. So we're in agreement.
I'm just
it for me.
rethinking.
Yeah,
I feel like I'm having an argument with my wife.
did
Yeah,
right.
fine.
Yeah.
You're fine. You're
Just
good.
take it.
You're
You
fine.
win. You're right.
Yeah.
You're
but
correct.
and speaking
so-
of real quick on the theater,
Yeah.
I have a connection.
Oh.
Because I live in the theater district of Rockwall. I live right down the road from the community playhouse.
Very nice.
We live at Rusk and Kaufman.
Okay.
We built a house there and all that stuff. But anyway, we always joke around like, hey, where do you live? Well, we're in the theater district.
There you
of
go.
course.
And you do visit the theater.
We've
quite
gone
often.
to see them do Charlie Brown, I think. Charlie Brown Christmas or something
Yeah.
they did. So anyway.
I did a few shows there. Yeah.
Did you? And it's amazing when you go in and you're like, how's this little building?
It is pretty
theater?
wild.
Yeah, it's like this place. It's
Yeah.
a shack,
Yeah.
and then you come in, you're like, oh, it's a studio.
Yeah,
But anyway, so there you go. So, but yeah, we'll see. We'll wear our tuxes on Friday night and go over to the theater to see what's being played there. Okay, so you now. You played basketball. You got out of that, and that kind of sent you on the direction with the acting. You get into radio. So let's go on this journey. You ready to go on the journey of
I wanna hear
the Matt McClearin journey?
How you got? Well, not here, but
The radio journey is how in the world did I just not stop at some point, honestly? I don't know. It was...
if you looking back, are you
'Cause
like,
you graduate-
"Ooh, that was rough.
Yeah, at times, but like I've told... We talked about this on the ticket one day, and I remember Bob and Corby just being like, man, like, what? How in the world?
Yeah.
And going through it, I don't know that it was as crazy. And then when I look back and I tell it to people, I'm like, man, what the hell was I? Like, how did I keep doing this?
Well, sometimes when you have your head down and you're chasing stuff.
Yeah, and I
don't
just
you?
am like, man, this is what I want to do. And there was a point as I got older where I was just like, maybe I should just stop. But I will. So when I started, and it goes back to what we were talking about with that award and winning that, and these program directors giving me their card, right? Like, hey, give us a call. I'm like, oh, all right, yeah, I'm the guy, man. I just won this huge award. Call those guys, and it's nobody is like, what? No, we don't have anything. Who's this? Type of thing. And I will say there's a guy named Jack Landreth who is a program director of a talk radio station in San Antonio, 550 KTSA. And he was like, yeah, okay. He was like, I'll give you a shot, part-time, fill in. And then I had just gotten done with school, and so I'm living in the DFW area. And they're in San Antonio. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm not moving to San Antonio so that once every 3 weeks or a month, if you need me,
Yeah, exactly.
I'm here. I'll just figure out how to get down there. Fortunately for me, my brother lived in Austin and still does to this day. He would call me, say a Tuesday night, hey, Matt, our morning host is out tomorrow. Can you be here? Yep, I'll be there. And I would jump in call my brother, hey, can I crash on your couch? I'll probably be there about 2 a.m. And I would drive down to Austin, crash on his couch, get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, drive to San Antonio to fill in on the morning show and not know, do you need me tomorrow? And it happened a couple of times like that.
Did they know you were in Dallas when they?
I don't know if they did or not. I don't know if I told them.
They didn't care.
Well, I was just like, I'll be there. Like, yes, I always said yes.
They probably never assumed you were.
Yeah, and so I did that for a while, and I got a gig in Austin at a station. And again, after that award, originally what I started doing was conservative talk radio show, which I'm sure, like when you're 22, 23, why wouldn't you do that? You have all the knowledge in the world to speak on these subjects.
Sure. And young people are so drawn to conservative politics.
I mean, man, it was. I got a show in Austin on a station called KVCE, and I had a very big lesson in my career on this because, hey, got recommendation from the San Antonio station. Essentially, we're looking for a guy. You're young, energetic. We're going to give you, 2-3 hour show. I think it was 3 hours originally. Then it became 2. Then it became 1. And so they tell me, hey, 3-year contract. Get down here. I'm like, awesome. And I'm moving down. I had a girlfriend at the time, and I told her, hey, she's like, well, I'm not going to move. She was still going to TCU, I think. She's like, well, we'll figure it out. I'll come visit you on the weekends. I was like, all right, cool. So I go down there, sign a lease on an apartment, and I'll never forget, like, my first week, they in front of the sales staff, hey, this is Matt. He's our new afternoon show guy. Let's get him in. What do you like to wear? You know what? You need a car? I'm like, oh, man, this is it. I'm big time, right?
Made it.
None of that stuff ever happened. I'm there for probably 3 months, and it starts to hit me like, hey, man, so you guys said I'll get this 3-year contract. Where is it? Mm-hmm. He's like, oh, no, we got you. It'll happen. Don't worry. I'm like, oh, okay. All right, cool. Show gets 2 hours. I'm like, hey, so what about this show gets 1 hour? If I remember correctly, it was somewhere in between 6 and 8 months. And he comes to me and goes, hey, corporate's decided to pull the plug on the station. So sorry, man. And so I had signed a year lease that I had to break. I didn't know what I was going to do. So I go back to Dallas, and I'm waiting tables. And at a
Where'd
friend,
you wait tables?
At Fridays, TGI Fridays.
Monte Cristo?
That was Binnigan's.
That's my favorite thing ever.
No, we had the Jack Daniels burger.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Ooh,
It
yeah.
was awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm doing that. So I go back to Fort Worth, trying to figure this out. And I had a friend who had a connection with the ranch in Fort Worth, 959. And so I go and I meet with them. And this was back before they had the Sundance Square studios. They were out in Weatherford. So I go out there and like, yeah, we could put you on part-time. I was like, okay, great. That'll be awesome. Overnight's on the weekend. So got to get to the station at 10 o'clock. And you'll do an 8-hour shift, and then Saturday at 6, you're done, and then come back Saturday night at 10 o'clock, and then Sunday morning at 6 a.m., and then we'll use you when we can during the week to fill in. I'm like, oh, sounds great. I'll do that. So I'm waiting tables. I got a gig waiting tables at a restaurant in Fort Worth called the Lonesome Dove. It's if you guys know Chef Tim Love, he's like a celebrity chef guy now.
I've heard the name.
Yeah, and so I was waiting tables there, and it was a really good, high-level restaurant, and I told him, I was like, hey, I got to be done in time to go out and do the show on Friday and Saturday nights. And like, oh, okay. So I would get wait tables from like 4 to 9, wrap up, and then head out to Weatherford to do the overnights. And I would do that. And that was my life for a few months. Yeah, there's
I have
Chef
seen
Tim
that
Love.
guy, yeah.
Yeah, his food is insane.
Yeah.
He's
been on the morning shows and stuff, the
he
local
does
morning
that.
shows. He'll be on those and talk about it.
He does really well.
Yeah.
Really well. His food is amazing. So I do that, and then finally, I guess the guy who did 7 to midnights on that station got let go, and they gave me a full-time gig. So I did 7 to midnight on the ranch for a little over a year, if I remember
But this is
right.
music, right? You're just
Yeah,
playing
music
music.
radio.
Yeah.
Music radio.
Yeah.
I'm the DJ. So I'm coming on, hey, that was Randy Rogers, and everybody having fun on a Friday night. I hope you're out there. Give me a call. What do you want to hear? Whatever the number was. Fort Worth Country, 95.9.
So you got to do the
ranch.
phone calls when people
Oh,
were
that,
calling
yeah, and you're
in?
editing it and making them sound crazy and all this type of thing, and then doing that. And my creativity didn't really fit that station very well. And I had done a couple of bits on the radio that I thought were funny, and they told me, hey, man, that's not really what we do. Just bring us in and out of the music and read the liners and that type of thing.
So these station managers, they're kind of on you, kind of controlling in a
Yeah,
lot of ways?
music radio it's about the music. People are listening for the music. They're not listening for you.
Yeah.
And I wanted them to listen to me.
Right.
And so I didn't like that. They're like, hey, 1 minute breaks. Let's get in and out, say what you need to say, and get out. I was like, well, let me do 3 or 4 minutes and see what happens. They didn't like that. And the last straw was, I forget exactly what it was, but I did a bit about a Fisher-Price meth lab. And they didn't think that was funny. So they called me in, and I'll never forget this because it was December 30th. It was the day before New Year's Eve. And they called me in and said, hey, we're letting you go. That was it. I was like, oh, man. Like, all right.
Again.
And so then, you're trying to figure out what am I going to do. I ended up going to.
Did you go? Was it the Fisher Price lab bit? Was that the last
tell
song?
me what
It was funny. I wish I'd kept that audio because it was.
It sounds great.
I'd love to hear it. Yeah.
It was, and I did like voices and stuff, and it was probably stupid, but whatever. It's just me trying to do something and push the line,
Right,
And
right.
it was the wrong place to push the line. So I ended up again. I'm just trying to stay like, how can I stay in radio? Because I didn't really have anybody guiding me, and I didn't know exactly, for instance, how to get on the ticket. And I was like, man, I want to get into sports talk. I don't have the first clue of how to do that. So all you do at that stage, probably like a lot of industries, somebody hears you and like, okay, so this guy over here will give you a shot. Go talk to him. And so I met a guy named David Darling, who is the program director for a cluster of stations at Salem Communications. So they have like K-Sky, and they had KLTY, and it was basically Christian talk radio. And I met with him, and he was like, yeah, I've looked at you, and I've heard some stuff about you from some people I know, so we'll let you run the board. Come on in, and if you can handle that, we'll start giving you more stuff. And so I started doing that, getting up early on. Again, I'm in my 20s.
So were you doing Christian music?
No, I was doing Christian talk, but I wasn't on air.
Okay.
I was running the board and producing shows.
Because I would think that's a perfect place for the Fisher-Price Meth Lab.
Oh, yeah, of course.
That would have worked in well.
Probably would have worked well.
And I worked my way up to like voicing commercials and stuff and editing. I was doing a lot of production, and salespeople bring you script and you just are voicing it. And I learned editing and all this type of stuff. And
so your acting skills played into a lot.
Yeah, a lot of that and doing that type of thing. But I really wanted to be on the air. I mean, I was applying everywhere, but I just didn't know, what do I need to do to get on the air full time somewhere? So I was sending resumes out all over the country, sports stations, which is what I really wanted to do. And I didn't hear anything back because it's a really hard industry to crack into.
I would imagine there's tons of people waiting.
Yeah, everybody wants to. Yeah. And I had no connections to any sports station whatsoever. So I go to where my connections were, which is, again, how a lot of businesses work, of course. So I applied at a station in American Samoa, got a phone call for there. They're like, hey, man, I've called 3 people. Whoever wants it, it's yours, because we're in the middle of nowhere. And I was like, I'm on the air every day, my own morning show. He's like, yeah. I was like, man, okay. He's like, and this guy, thank God, he goes, you need to do some research on American Samoa. And he told me it's basically like living in a third world country.
Get your vaccines.
And he told me all this stuff. And I was like, I don't think that's for me. He goes, okay, no problem. And so then I got a gig in Lake City, Florida, which is about 45 minutes north of Gainesville, Florida, in the middle of nowhere, Central Florida, where I-10 and I-75 meet. Mm-hmm. And again, it was just, I want to be on the air every day and just let me do my own thing. And this guy at this rinky-dink little station was like, okay, yeah, we'll give you a morning show. It was from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. on a mixed music station, like 80s, 90s, and today. But you can do some stuff and have some fun in between. I was like, all right, I'm on the air Monday through Friday. I can come up and let my personality show and get some good stuff on tape. I can do that for a couple of years and we'll see what happens. Man, I go out there. My brother helps me move. We pull up in front of this station. It's in a Quonset hut. You guys know what that is?
No, what is that?
It's like an old World War II, like shack-looking thing, like the half-circle Quonset
like
hut
a barracks
thing.
looking thing in the military. Yeah.
It looks like that. And, man, it was so jarring that, see if you pull up a picture of that. Yeah, it looks like that.
Oh, wow.
So, but a radio station in that thing. And it was so old, and I didn't know what to do. And
that's what our gym looked like in Lampasas. It was
really?
Yeah,
just like this
gym.
old like bomb shelter looking
thing.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, we pull up in front of this station. My brother gets out, walks over to me, puts his hand on my shoulder, and goes, hey, man, we can turn around and go home, and no one will think any less of you.
Right now. We can just.
And I think I was 25 years old at the time. I was like, man, I need to do this. It'll be okay. He's like, all right. So we go, to this day, the worst apartment I've ever lived in my life. And that's where I was like, man, can I do this? Like there were roaches in it and stuff. And like if something broke, it would take a week for them to come fix it. My apartment flooded once from a broken dishwasher. And that was on a Friday afternoon. And they're like, well, we won't come until Monday. So, but there's water on my floor. They're like, oh, it's fine. Like it was really rough for me.
Don't worry about the floor. It's hard.
It was really rough. And so that's when I decided to, I think I did that almost 2 years.
Golly.
And I was like, I can't do this anymore. I moved back to Texas, and I got a gig at a station that no longer exists here. Can't remember the name of it, but the Lieutenant Governor of Texas, Dan Patrick, at the time owned it. And he had a station in Houston where he had a radio talk show. And he wanted to start it as a syndicate up here in Dallas. And it was me and another guy who were going to run it. I was the production director, so I handled all the commercials and everything like that. And the other guy was going to have a show, and I'd help him with that, and he'd throw me on there every once in a while. I was like, all right, I'm staying in radio. Here we go. And it got to a point at the time where the person I was with was like, all right, well, I think you've been pursuing this for a decade. It's not happening. Maybe you should look elsewhere. So I got on radio for a bit, for about a year. I was miserable. I did not like my life. It just wasn't what I wanted to do.
Was the passion to do this still there, though?
Oh, yeah.
The drive?
Yeah.
You never let go of wanting to do it?
No, I never let go. And my dad came over one day. He's like, hey, what's going on with you? I was like, man, I feel like I gave up on my dream. And that's all I ever wanted to do. He's like, well, then go do it. I was like, yeah, but I got to be an adult. He's like, for who? I was like, I don't know. I mean, isn't that what you're supposed to do? Like have some kids and stuff? He was like, no. He's like, me and your mom, we'll help you out if you need help. Just go pursue your passion and live the life you want.
Supportive parents right there.
No, it was awesome. And so there used to be a website called allaccess.com, which is where like they would post all the radio stuff and all the gigs and all this.
Yeah, I remember that.
And so I saw...
They would put ball games on there and stuff, too,
Yeah, all
right?
kinds of stuff.
Yeah,
like, you could get any radio gig
Right.
basically on there.
Right.
And this was back in the day, keep in mind, before emails were really a big thing. Everybody would post on there, hey, opening serious applicants only. I'll know you're serious if you overnight your package.
Yeah.
I was overnighting CD samples of my work to these stations all across the country at $24.95 a pop.
Oh, gosh.
Little demos.
Yeah. Like a demo of my work, because this is before you would MP3 files to people.
Yeah.
And so, man, I had some debt that was literally from applying at 100, who knows how many stations of, got to be overnight, otherwise they don't think I'm serious type thing. And so finally with this was the MP3 wave. The Ticket had posted, this was 2009, the Ticket had posted looking for part-time sports anchors and all this. And I remember thinking, I was like, man, whatever, I'm going to send in my crap. I was like, I'm just going to do it and see. I don't know anybody over there. I don't have a connection. So I sent it in, and Rich Phillips, who was doing tickers, and he was the assistant program director at the time, he was the guy that brought me in for an interview. He was like, your stuff is really good, man. He's like, you got a great sound. He goes, go in the booth and knock out a sample ticker. And I was like, right now? He's like,
Ticker, what does that mean?
So it's like...
Forgot Jay doesn't do...
Okay, yeah, so...
Ticker? What is a ticker?
Ticker.
Yeah, so on the Ticket, we have these little sports updates
okay.
that is basically like a minute and a half of you're given stats and last night this is what happened and brought to you by and all this type of thing. And so...
Is it like every 10 minutes? Is it every 10 minutes?
It's twice an hour now. There used to be 3 an hour, and now it's twice an
Okay.
hour. And so he goes, go into the studio and do a sample one. And I was like, okay. So I just went in there and I did that. And he goes, awesome. He goes, that's fantastic. He's like, all right, we'll hire you. I was like, cool.
Holy crap.
So it was
that's fast.
part-time, very part-time.
So you just did the tickers, though?
I did part-time tickers.
Part-time tickers.
Part-time tickers, again, filling in, and I did what they call reporting, which is really grabbing audio. Like they'd send you out to Valley Ranch or Stars Locker Room or whatever to get audio from players, and then you edit that and put it in the system so shows can use it or whomever can use it. So I was one of those guys.
Did you do a lot of remotes?
Not then, no, because I wasn't doing anything. I was just like basically
He
just
didn't
this.
have a show, yeah.
Yeah, just hoping that they'd use me. And I wanted to make sure that I could be available as often as possible. And so I was, man, they're paying you like, I don't even remember, like $7 an hour or whatever it is back then. You can't live on that. I'm getting maybe 10 hours a week, maybe.
But you're thrilled to be
But
there.
I'm on the Ticket. My
You're
foot
on
is in the
ticket,
door.
Yeah.
Here we
tell
go.
people I'm on the Ticket.
Right. This
You
is
would-
my dream.
You would pay to do it.
Dude, my friends, some of my friends were like, "Oh my God, you made it!" I was like, "What do you mean I made it? Like, nobody even knows who I am. I'm making $7. I'm making $70 a week doing this
But you can see some
in
light.
2009. This isn't 1970. Like, how do you live on $70?
But at that point, you're seeing some light. Like
I was
this
hoping,
could happen.
and I was like, I have got to be able to say yes to everything they asked me to do. I have to. I have to say, hey, we need you to fill in this afternoon on tickers. I'll be there. What job can you get to allow you to do that? So I was looking around. I went to a Blockbuster Video as a 29-year-old person, and I talked to them and I said, hey, this is what I'm trying to do. I need a job that I can do where if I tell you in the middle of my shift, I need to leave, you're cool with it. And they were like, cool. I was like, I'm serious. And
Really?
I kid you not.
So you did Blockbuster Video.
Dude, I did it in Uptown at the location that's, none of them are there anymore, of course, but I did it at the Uptown location. So all these dudes my age are coming in there renting videos on the weekend.
Okay, we're at it because I worked at Uptown. What location in Uptown? Like what streets? Do you remember?
It would have been McKinney and... Man, I'm trying to remember the cross street. It's where the Men's Warehouse is now.
Okay, yeah.
I know where that is.
Yeah.
Right next to a Bib and Tuckers.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I know. It's like Lemon.
Yeah, Lemon. Yeah, it was Lemon and McKinney.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you get a lot of non-rewinders?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, a lot.
Put them in that machine.
And I worked, so the reason why I wanted to do that was because in high school I worked at Video Village in Rockwall for like 3 years.
I forgot about Video Village.
I used to go there.
I love that place.
Do you remember that little back side room they'd have?
Oh, whoa. I don't know about what you were
Side.
doing, Jay. But
Where you had to get the key to unlock the
Yeah,
videos to
yeah.
rent.
I mean, I never went in there. But
Okay.
I always
All
wondered
right.
what was back there.
yeah, I'm
You're
sure.
like, oh, I'm here for a Manuel in space. Right this way, sir.
All your movies had Lady Chatterley as a part of the title.
Do you guys have body heat? No, the second one. Awesome.
Part 2.
Yeah, so I'm doing that, man, and that was a really rough time Because again, I'm 10 years out of high school. All my friends
Yes.
are at least having that type of success. Some are in their own homes, and I'm at the time just trying to piece it together, living in a rinky-dink apartment with a roommate, just trying to survive, but make myself as available as humanly possible. And I never said no, ever, to the ticket. And that happened multiple times where somebody would not be able to make it, and I'm only doing tickers, but I'm at least getting exposure. And I'm able to do some stuff, showing them I can do this, I'm available, I'm here. And then they gave me a Saturday show. And so me and another guy, noon to 2 on Saturdays, we were on air once a week. I'm like, okay, start building this up.
Scott Harrison?
This was before Scott. This was David Newberry, actually. Me and him did a show called The Scrubs. And then, again, just kind of working your way up, and they're like, all right. And I will say, Jeff Catlin, the program director at The Ticket, who has been a huge mentor in my career, would bring us in fairly regularly and just break it down. Like, hey, you guys work on this, do this, I like this part, and really try to coach you up and help you to learn how to be better at the craft. And so I did that for about a year and a half, and then the Dallas Stars pre- and post-game position came open. So I applied for that, and I got that. So I'm doing that. I think this was when Mark Elfenbein had left Sunday mornings originally to go to the Fan and try a full-time show. So that opened up the Sunday morning slot, and that's when Scott and I got paired together. And I was doing Sunday morning every week, using me on tickers all the time, getting to fill in on the main shows as one of the fill-in hosts and doing Dallas Stars stuff. So I'm like, all right, this is working. And at the time, I'm still doing that along with working at Blockbuster and part-time at the Christian Talk Station doing production when I could.
I forgot about the Christian Talk Station.
Yeah. So I'm doing all this at once. Just trying to get hours wherever I could. But at least I remember thinking, you know what? This is a lot. I'm working probably 60 hours a week, but it's all radio.
So what was
except for Blockbuster.
Your Christian show, what was that?
It was just me doing production at the station, which is
okay.
Yeah, so production, like voicing commercials, editing commercials, putting them in the system, that type of thing. That's all I was doing there. And so I'm doing all of this, and then it got to a point where I was able to leave Blockbuster, which was great. When I got the Stars gig, I stopped doing Blockbuster. And so then I was like, all right, all I'm doing is radio. I'm doing Dallas Stars pre- and post-game, filling in on the ticket, doing a little production work. All right, if this is all it is, at least I'm all right. Like I thought, I was hoping it'd be more.
But you're filling your days.
You're
filling your days.
Yeah, I mean, I was working.
In your passion.
Right,
and working.
And I'm doing 7 days a week, but it never felt like I was working too much.
Right.
Because I loved it. And so then what really started to change it for me was a station in Birmingham, Alabama. And this was the first time I left a ticket. It was Jocks 94.5. And I had never, outside of Gulf Shores, I'd never been to Alabama in my life. And Scott was the one, he's like, hey, there's a station in Alabama that's hiring for their midday show. I think we could get it. It's like, Alabama? I don't want to go to Alabama. It's not even a top 50 market. It's like market 58 or something. And I was like, we're only doing top 50 markets. Because we thought, we're pretty good. And Kat had told us, you guys.
I'm the ticker guy. I got to do top level.
In our Sunday morning show.
Do you listen daily?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Our Sunday morning show was going well, and Kat was having a lot of nice things to say to us and stuff.
I remember that. I remember your show.
Yeah, and I felt like, it's not going to happen here because everybody's on these multi-year contracts, and I'm not. At that point in my life, I was 32, 33. I was like, man, I want a full-time shot. So we go and we sit down with Kat, and we tell him about this, and he goes, oh, yeah, you guys should take that. I was like, really? He goes, that station has a really good reputation in the industry. You're not ready to be at this level. And even if you were, I don't have a spot for you. And just based on the contract situations of all the guys, I won't have a spot for you for 5 years minimum.
What year? This is around 2009?
This would have been 2012.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 2012 going into 2013.
Okay. So who were the shows then, like on the ticket?
That would have been
Dunham
the Musers,
Miller,
of course.
Yeah.
And then Norm.
Yeah.
This was back when Donnie was with Bad Radio, and then the Hardline when Mike was still there with Corby and Danny Bayless and those guys.
Okay.
Yeah, so
you're right. There's no opening scene.
It wasn't going to happen. Yeah. And I kind of knew that. But when Kat said, you should go here, it would be really good. He goes, you'll get to develop. You're on the radio every day. It's a 4-hour sports talk radio show. It's your first full-time sports talk show. He goes, if I were you, I would take it. It's like, okay, all right. And he told us flat out. He said, hey, if you want to do that, let me know. But again, if you say you want it, you got to take it because I'm going to call them and they'll take you. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what happened. Because we said yes. The next afternoon, their station manager called us and said, so you guys want to come to Birmingham? We were told that we need to bring you in.
Wow.
Like
he has
all
that
the-
much pull.
Like the ticket. I mean,
yeah.
So when things happen, it's quick. It moves fast.
With
when it does
with
happen.
certain people, yeah.
Yeah.
When he picks up the phone and calls, there's certain people in the industry, if they're calling you, then and it's you get to a point in your career where it's more you call somebody that can help you to find out. And so we go to Birmingham for the first time. Our first show was in February of 2013. Scott and I lived together for a couple months out there, and we ended up doing that out there for 3.5 years. And it was great. Loved it. And kind of had a feeling that things were going to change for us because we went out there originally to do a 10 to 2 p.m. show, middays. And then we got bumped to 5 to 8 on the same contract. And I thought, you still get a couple hours afternoon drive. Not bad. That'll work. Mm-hmm. Then we got bumped 6 to 9. And when that happened, and it's because Paul Feinbaum was the huge deal, is, he changed the hours of his show, and so they adjusted us around him.
Is that his home station? Was that his
Yeah,
home?
it was.
Okay.
That's where he came from.
Okay.
And I told Scott, when they moved us 6 to 9, I said, dude, we're in trouble. Mm-hmm. He goes, I don't know. We do pretty good. Our ratings are fine. I was like, yeah, but they don't pay people to do radio after 7 o'clock at night. And so something is going to happen. And we had this whole thing. Our station manager that had hired us and had fought for us a couple of times had left. And they bring in a new station manager. Like, man, this isn't good. And we had a meeting with my PD at the time. And I thought we had worked something out because he's like, look, I said, tell me what's going on, man. Like, is this, you're going to let us go? He's like, they kind of want to make a change, yes, but we don't want to lose you, but we can't keep you both. I said, well, I'm not going to throw Scott under the bus. That's just not me. And so we tried to work out. I said, what if I go to Scott and say, hey, you can be producer. Would you be cool taking a salary cut and all this? And I think Scott might go for that because his wife did really well. And I went and told Scott and we talked about it. He's like, yeah, I'll do that. I was like, all right. So we get called into this meeting and I thought that they were going to tell us that, hey, we're going to do Matt with this show and Scott, you're going to be his producer. And instead they fired us. And I never forget because I'm sitting there like as close as I am to you guys. And I look at my PD and he stayed for what he had to. And in the middle of it, after they said their legal requirements, that dude got up and left. And he called me afterwards. He goes, I completely disagree with it. Man, I'm so sorry. I fought for you. There's nothing I can do. It's totally out of my hands, but that's why I left. And he told me if I ever get a chance to bring you back, I will. I was like, okay. So this was in 2016. Cat calls me that night, Jeff Catlin from The Ticket, and is like, what the hell happened? I was like, I don't know. I told him the whole thing. He goes, that's ridiculous, you know. And I was like, all right. So he goes, tell me what you need. Tell me what we can do for you. If you can't find anything, I'll figure out something for you. We'll bring you back here. I was like, okay. So I looked around, and at that time, knowing I had The Ticket on my resume and Jocks on my resume, there's a couple stations that I looked at. And there's one in Nashville I really wanted to go to. And they wouldn't call me back. So I called Cat. I was like, hey, this station. He goes, all right, hold on. And so Bruce Gilbert, who's a real high up guy in Cumulus, and this was a Cumulus station, the one in Nashville. Bruce calls me and I talked to him for a minute. He goes, what station is it? And I told him, he goes, all right, hold on, they'll call you. Get off the phone. 20 minutes later, this dude from Nashville calls me. He's like, hey man, we have kind of internally already know who we're going to put in that spot. He goes, but you come highly recommended. I just wanted to call you and let you know what was going on. I was like, okay, cool. You know, thanks for calling me. Mm-hmm. So I called Cat and I was like, hey man, I think I'm going to come back to Dallas. He's like, all right. He goes, I don't have anything full-time for you, but I'll create a position for you on ESPN Radio. And that was 103.3. At the time, Cumulus had The Ticket and ESPN Radio.
Oh, I didn't know they owned both.
Well, they had what's called an LMA, which is basically a lease agreement on ESPN. So they had the signal so they could sell it and do that type of thing, but they didn't technically own it.
Okay.
And so I was like, all right. He goes, I can give you Cowboys pre- and post-game show with Nate Newton, the former Cowboy, and I can give that to you, and I will, anytime we have a fill-in spot with the shows, you're my first guy, I'll use you all the time, I'll do the best I can for you. I was like, I'll take it. So we moved back. My now wife was my girlfriend at the time. We moved to Plano, come back, and I was like, man, I'm gonna have to get another part-time job again and figure this out. So I'm doing this, right? So I ended up, that's where I really started to get into the beer industry because I had really gotten into craft beer. And I was like, man, if I can't be in radio, I'd like to work in beer. So I go and I get a job working in beer, doing beer sales. So I'm doing that, and they were really cool about it too. Same situation. Hey, this is my passion. This is what I want to do.
Right, beer sales. Explain that.
Like selling, like going into accounts and be like, hey, put us on tap. And like Kroger's and stuff like that and grocery stores and getting us a SKU and displays. And so I'm doing that, but it was with the understanding that there will be afternoons where I will call you and say, hey, I'm going to go do the afternoon show on this radio station, and it's non-negotiable. Like, if you want me to take this job, that's just how it's going to be. And they're like, okay, that's cool, as long as you hit your accounts and you do what you're supposed to. So I did that for 2 years, and then that was the last time that I had, no, it's not, I forgot. Dang it. I was going to say that was the last time I did part-time stuff. But, so
longer than that.
Yeah, man, so I'm doing this, and I did that for 2 years, and it was cool. I got a lot of opportunity at ESPN. I filled in a lot, which was great. Cat used me a lot. And then they decided to make a change with one of their shows, and I got full-time again. And that's when I did a show with Jean-Jacques Taylor that we called Jam Session.
I remember that. Yeah.
And we did that for 2 years, and we were doing well. And when I came into the show, it was a 0.8 rating, and we ended up, the last time we were on, we got like a 3.4 or something like that. So we had, whatever that is, math-wise, tripled, quadrupled.
And now tell people, too, when you talk about the ratings, the ticket dominates.
Oh, yeah, it's not even close.
It's not close.
No.
It's not even like other stations, like, I don't know what the numbers are, but like if you're getting a 3 whatever on with Jean-Jacques Taylor, I'm assuming the show opposite you on the ticket's something like a 10 or something like that.
Yeah, like 7, 8 up there.
Exactly,
yeah.
Exactly. Because they just dominated.
It's ridiculous.
Every show.
Right, and it's a beast. There's nothing like it. And so I just want to do full-time radio, sports talk. I'm in it. Let's go. You know, Jacques and I are doing the show, and unfortunately that's when COVID hit. And the Cumulus corporate had to make a decision because, as you guys know, revenue is virtually non-existent.
Yeah.
They just couldn't keep the station. The lease was up. They couldn't come to an agreement. And we had a Zoom meeting, and I think it was 16 of us. It's not just on-air guys. I mean, everybody. Board ops, everybody loses their jobs. And we found out 6 weeks ahead of time. They get, guys, unfortunately, this is what's going to happen. 6 weeks from now, the station is not going to exist. And there's just nothing we can do. Wow. But you got to go do a radio show for the next 6 weeks knowing this. So that was really rough. And that was the point when I really thought about maybe it's just never going to happen. You know, I was about to be 40 years old. I was like, man, I've been trying to do this my whole life.
And you're married?
Yeah, we hadn't gotten married at that point, but we were...
Okay.
Essentially, I mean, we'd been together for a few years, and she was like, "No, don't give up." I was like, "And what? Keep doing this part-time thing where I'm working multiple jobs. I'm working constantly. I love it, but man, I did everything. I moved out of state for this thing. You know, I bounced around. I've been working multiple jobs. I'm trying my best to make this happen, and man, it just isn't." I talked to my mom and dad about it, my brother and both my brothers, and everybody was so supportive. And you know, yeah, that's
your lovely bride.
It's my lovely bride. That's
what's
our
her
engagement picture. Molly is her name.
That's great.
Yeah, we got married now, yeah. But yeah, she was really super supportive and said, we'll figure it out, you know, do whatever we need to, you know, just don't give up on your dream because you're so good at it. And I just don't want you to give up on it. And my mom and dad, and again, I told them this when I got hired full-time at the ticket, which we'll get to, they were very supportive and helped me out. And my brother did too. And I couldn't have gotten to where I am right now without the help of others along the way. It's impossible. I couldn't have done it. Financially, I couldn't have done it. And I had to have people that were kind enough to support me like that believed in me to say, hey, don't give up. We will help you.
They didn't tell you, this is a pipe dream. Get real and get a job.
No, and they supported me like, don't give up. You're talented enough. You can do this. You've gotten opportunities. You just got to keep grinding.
Very lucky to have that.
Extremely.
Yeah.
Like I told my parents, they're like, "Oh, we're so proud of you." I was like, I don't do this without my family.
Yeah,
I couldn't have.
Because there's a lot of parents who say, "Hey, you gave it a shot. Now go get a real job."
Especially at that point, 40 years old. I think I was 39 or 40.
Yeah,
and so I'm like, okay. So Jacques and I decided to start a podcast, and we're going to make some money on that. And we were able to, again, Jeff Catlin allowed us to promote, hey, our show is ending in 6 weeks, but we're going to start this podcast. Subscribe now. So we're able to get some traction going while we still had a radio show.
Yeah.
So I did that. I started hosting trivia at a few breweries with buddies of mine. I was like, hey, man, I noticed you guys don't do trivia. Pay me a little bit and let me come in here and do trivia for you. Like, all right. So I did that.
And your name was it helped bring in people.
Right. So start doing stuff like that. And then I'm just trying to piece it together. I had another buddy, a couple of friends that own a brewery called False Idol out in North Richland Hills. And I called them. I was like, hey, do you guys need help at all doing whatever? Do you throw me a bone and let me work for you guys a couple of days a week? Yeah, man. What do you want to do? I was like, I'll pour beers if I can work, 3-4 days a week, whatever. Like, yeah, cool. And so they all,
great.
yeah. And again, that network of friends that I'd had that supported me and helped me. And so then I do that for a year. And the program director who told me from Alabama, if I ever have a chance to bring you back, I will, calls me. Hey, we're making some changes. I'd like to bring you back. I don't know what you're doing, but I know that you're not working full-time radio. I was like, all right, man. And I had some conversations with them, and it was a real consideration. Man, do we want to go back to Birmingham? My son's here, lives with his mom. He was in, I think, 6th grade, 5th grade at the time. It'd be really hard on him. And I tried to talk to him about it. It was rough. I mean, telling him when I decided to take the job, I had a lot of conversations. And in one of my parameters for going back out to Birmingham, because they wanted to put me with the guy I didn't know, I said, if I'm going to come back, I want to do my own show. I want to try my own thing. The Matt McClearin Show, 2 hours, just me. And they're like, all right, let's do it. So went back to Birmingham. And, when you make a move like that, you make it with the idea, this is what life will be. Like, I'm going to go out here and I'm probably never coming back. And that is when, a couple of years out there, Norm Hitzges decides to retire from the Ticket. Texas Radio Hall of Famer, he had been at the Ticket for 25, 30 years, whatever it was.
Oh, he was at KLIF forever.
Yeah, he was at KLIF before that. He was Rangers play-by-play guy for a few years at one point in his career. And he was in his upper 70s and decided to walk away. And that's when they kind of, Jeff Catlin calls me in Alabama. He's like, hey, you coming in town to visit your family for Christmas? This is a few months before Norm officially retired. I was like, yeah. He's like, let's get together. And he asked me just casually, he's like, did you ever come back to Dallas, work on the Ticket? And I was like, I thought he was joking. I was like, what? Yes, that's my dream. Like the dream of my radio career is to work on the Ticket. He's like, okay, I didn't know if you're killing it out there in Alabama. I was like, well, I am, but
It's Alabama.
Right. And I was like, this is a Ticket, man. And it's like I told people, like, if Steven Spielberg calls you and is like, hey, you want to be in my movie? You don't go, oh, what part will I have? You go, hell yeah, I do.
I'm in. I'll do whatever, yeah.
So, yeah.
I'm doing a student film right now.
Right. So he told me, Cal was pretty open about it. He goes, look, Norm's going to retire at some point. We got some other things happening with contracts and stuff. He goes, I don't know when. I don't know what's going to happen, but you'd be at the top of my list if it happens. And it's probably going to be, it may be a year, it may be, who knows, but it'll be within the next couple of years. I was like, yeah, please keep me in mind. And sure enough, when Norm officially decided to retire, he picked it up. He's like, all right, man, let's do this. And so I had to go through that process, and they flew me out for the official interview and all that. And
okay, so let's talk about...
Yeah, so there's my journey.
Because I want to...
Don't do radio, kids. Just don't.
So, okay, Norm, I grew up listening to all these stations, all this stuff. And Norm is nuts and bolts, like just, he's a dad, kind of. Dad humor. And he just did not ever seem to me fit in with the Ticket, with their sense of humor, the way they did. But he did
not
eventually.
As edgy.
He wasn't as edgy.
No, not at all. No, he was very straight sports.
Yeah, straight.
But he had
sports.
fun. Norm is like the nicest human on the face of the earth. He's incredible.
And he would let them make fun of him, and he would have fun with it. And all, because I remember before when he was at KLIF, he did not like the Ticket. Yeah, he was bitter about it. He didn't like this new station that came in. He didn't like that they didn't do sports all the time, that they goofed around.
They were laughing.
KLIF stopped doing the talk radio, and he had to go to the Ticket, and it turned out okay. But Donovan was with Norm his last couple years, right? And they
like 8 years, I think.
Okay, really? You was with him that long? Yeah. And then now you go with Donovan, and I think y'all's combo is great. And Donovan, when you're with him, how well did you know him when you teamed up with him?
So having done it a couple of stints before, so when I was there from 2009 to 2013, we had a weekly pickup basketball game, and I was a part of that, and Donnie was a part of that. And then when I got let go at ESPN during COVID, when I was doing the trivia and the bartending and all that, I was also filling in on the Ticket. And so I did a couple of weeks filling in with Donnie on the Ticket. So we got to know each other pretty well. I filled in with Dan a couple of times, and they were using me as much as they could. It was just, again, part-time. But I got to know him pretty well.
And it was weird that when Dan left, that whole thing, and I'm going to make you explain it. I feel like there was some stuff behind the scenes that happened. But all of a sudden, Dan's been there forever with Bob. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, Dan's gone. And somebody else went too.
Yeah, Dan and Jake.
That's right.
They had left.
Because they had done a show together after Bob moved to the Hardline.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they had done, I can't remember, I think it was like 5 years that Dan and Jake were together.
And they even still did, that's when we did Homer Call. Like, they still did the Homer Call. We'd be on it.
Yeah, and they decided to make the move that they made.
Yeah.
And that was really interesting because I was hired when Norm retired, to replace Norm.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole thing with Donnie, and as a matter, like, I thought I was going to be working with Dan and Jake. I didn't even know when I signed my contract that there was anything going on or any of that.
Yeah.
Like, why would I know? I have no clue. Why would they tell me anything? And so that was really interesting when we found that out, because that was, I think it's one thing to replace Norm, who's a legend, and that's already a big change at the station. But then when you're having that, and then another show leaves, and you got to replace that. I think going through that with myself, and Donnie got some of it too. Sean Bass and David Mino got a lot of it.
Yeah,
it's just a lot of. One of the great things about the ticket is we call them P1s. Just loyal listeners that are so passionate about the station, which can be really, really good and awesome, but also at sometimes be not so good and not so awesome. And I understand that because I was a P1. I grew up listening to the station myself.
Yeah.
Right. And so when I told Donnie, when they put him on bad radio, I was pissed. Originally, as a listener, I was like, "Why would you? You're going to ruin my favorite show."
Right.
And now I work with the guys. Like, really? I was like, "Yeah, man." I was like, "So I get people don't like change." And I understand
that's
that.
the thing.
don't.
When the hard line, when Mike Reiner left, and they put Bob with Corby. I'm like, God, this ain't gonna work.
I think everybody thought that.
It works. It's good.
It's awesome.
It's very good.
I love their show.
Yeah. When Mike Reiner left, I don't know how much you listen to the ticket, but I mean, Mike Reiner was they call him the old gray wolf, and he was the guy that started it. He started the ticket.
Godfather of the ticket, that whole thing. Yeah.
But he's just an old guy, very funny, had some hot opinions about stuff, but always hardcore, loyal, all that stuff. And then when he left, you're like, oh man, the ticket ain't going to be the same. It's over. And it's thriving still. And
we just had one of the best years the ticket has ever had.
Yeah. Wow. And you got people like Dunham and Miller. I go all the way back when Dunham and Miller was drive time. I remember when they were not drive time, but they were like afternoon. They were like, that's a long time
day
ago.
Day one P1 pretty much.
Yeah, because I used to work in an advertising agency, and so we would do the remotes with them. And so we did remotes with them users now and then. I remember meeting or talking to Gordon Keith a couple times, realizing very quickly Gordon knew nothing about sports, when we would do stuff. And I would make a comment or something, and he'd be like, I don't know what you're talking.
He didn't even try to fake it.
No, he doesn't. He's funny as all get out, though.
Really?
Yeah, so
awesome.
He is so funny. And so he works great with them and all that stuff. But so it wasn't a big deal for you to merge with Donnie as far as getting to know each other and all that, kind of play off each other? And
no, not really. I mean, we had it.
Because I know that can be a hurdle sometimes.
It can be. And to Kat's credit, he is a master of putting people together in the right fits. And Donnie and I immediately had great chemistry, really enjoyed being around each other. I think both of us would say, like, that first show that we did, my first show full-time with Donnie on the ticket. So Friday, I did my last show in Birmingham, got on a plane, flew to Dallas. Sunday morning, went to DFW Airport, and it was me, Jeff Catlin, Donnie, Sean, and Mino, and we all flew to California for Cowboys training camp.
Yeah.
So my first show was out in Oxnard at Cowboys camp, introducing, here's the new shows, Matt and Donnie.
Is that a blast? It seems like it's a blast when everybody goes out there to Oxnard.
Oh, it's awesome. And now I knew the guys, and again, having been around, and they knew my name and knew of me since 2009. So when I show up in 2023, I'd been in some form or fashion, they knew who I was for like 14 years. So most of the guys kind of knew me, and I'd been able to hang out with them at some point. But just being able, those are the best trips because, like, we're about to go to New Orleans to do Radio Row for Super Bowl week coming up. And when you can get away and it's just all of us together, it's awesome. It's guys just being guys and all with the same goal. And I think there's a lot of mutual respect for each other and truly enjoying each other.
And it gets to a point on a much, much lower level with what I do with the ball games. Like if one of our teams makes it to a championship, you're somewhere for like 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
Especially like basketball, because they're going to have 2 games over a weekend or whatever, baseball, and you go with the guys and you get a room or a couple of rooms and you're just hanging out. It doesn't matter if you're 18 or if you're 60.
It's awesome.
It's the same
awesome.
attitude.
It is,
it's like, what can we F around with? What can we? And it's a blast. And I don't know what it is, but it is one of the more fun things in the world to go do that kind of stuff, and just be with guys and do stupid stuff.
It's a lot of fun.
So you love your job.
Oh, yeah. There are times, honestly, where you almost feel like, man, I should get a job. Seriously.
I should grow up. What's the hardest or worst part of what you do?
Man, that's an interesting question. The hardest part is, I think, like ever since we expanded to the new hour, is just making sure that you feel prepared and making sure
I can
that,
imagine that daily.
to me, at least having the outline of this is what we want to accomplish. And there are some days, like honestly today, Thursday is, I don't know when you guys are going to post
We'll probably
this.
post it Sunday.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
right.
Thursday, you run into a show every once in a while where, man, it's just, okay, who's got an idea? Because we're looking at this sheet and we've got 4 open segments. And I think part of it that the Cowboys coaching search is a great example of this. Everybody wants to talk about that. So if you're a listener and you get into your car and you may only have, generally speaking, most people are listening to the radio for 10 to 15 minutes at a time or streaming it or whatever, however you consume it. And so if they get into your vehicle and you're not talking about what they want to hear, then they punch you out. And so our job is, okay, we need to have fun and do our fun segments, but also this is the main story. We've already done 30 segments on this story. So how do we continue to make it entertaining and informative and come up with new angles to present? Here's a story we've already been talking about, but it sounds new because it's a different angle.
Constantly, more.
But I love that challenge of it, and that's one thing I love about radio, which is why I loved theater, is the creative aspect of it, of constantly creatively challenging yourself to come up with stuff like that and having fun with it. And yeah, there are times, honestly, man, I'll be sitting in traffic on 35 because I live in Carrollton. But we go down to the station. I leave my house around 7:30 in the morning. I'll be sitting there on traffic, and you come over that little ridge on 35, and you see downtown Dallas. And I get excited. And I'm not even moving. I'm just sitting there and I'm looking around and go, man, I'm about to go be on the ticket and go do radio. And who knows how many of these people sitting in traffic could be listening to my show here in a little
that's true. That's a great point.
I do mortgage loans. For 25 years, I have talked to people and what they do. 98% hate their job.
I know.
Very few get to say, I love what I do.
I love it,
And that's
man.
you.
I get high.
And that's amazing.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, when you love your job, there's no. I remember when I had jobs I didn't love, and you hated Sunday night, Monday mornings coming up, and you got to go do your job. There's no Monday mornings anymore when you love your job. You're just like, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go. I still have this. This is kind of off track, but a little bit. The Orange Bowl. Anytime I see the Orange Bowl being played, it's a terrible feeling for me because growing up, the Orange Bowl was always the last bowl game on that Sunday night or whatever, that last night before you're going back to school. And when the Orange Bowl came on, you're like, we got to go back to school. It's the Orange Bowl, you know? And I hated
associated
it because you did not want to go do what was coming up that Monday. And I'd hate to live your whole life not wanting to go that Monday or whatever it is. So,
I couldn't imagine. And I think that's, you go back to that journey and that story about everything I went to. And when I finally got to an age, I was like, man. And then with that support, I thought, okay, well, if this is all it's going to be, I just accepted it. It's like, because I thought maybe I'll never make money, and it might always be a struggle at some point in my life, but at least I'm waking up happy, like I'm fulfilled.
That's the
but
biggest
you know
part.
what, Matt? You paid for that. Through many years of all of that. Like, you could have quit. You should have quit, but you didn't.
Doubt.
Well, and
so you earned that.
Who was the person that said the biggest secret of success is persistence? That's most people give up.
Yeah, and it's interesting because going back to college radio days, we had a reunion a few years ago. This is probably when I was working in Birmingham, and I flew in for it. And there were, I think, 75 people that had all at one point in their lives worked at KTSW, the student radio station, and expressed, I want to do radio or something in the media. And man, all these people kept coming up to me, and I finally figured out why not. And I learned this from our old student advisor who was there. He goes, well, yeah, they're fascinated by you because you're the only person still doing it.
That's crazy.
I was like, you're kidding me. Like, not a single other person in here does radio or TV.
Wow.
And he was like, no, not a single one of them.
Wow.
Because they're like, man, how are you doing this? And stuff like, what? I mean,
just keep going.
Are you not also?
What would you say to a high schooler who's like, I want to be a sports broadcaster. That's my dream. What would you tell them?
I think, again, as I laid out, you have to make yourself as available as possible because they will always go to the person who says yes.
You always had that flexibility.
Right. Regardless.
You moved.
Right.
Yeah.
And I always tell people, because I'll go back to my university, Texas State, and I speak. They do this thing every 3 years, and I'm always a guest speaker because I think it's really important to help these kids. And I always say a couple of things. One of the things is, if this is what you want to do, it has to be the thing. And everything else in life is around the thing. And regardless of what it is, like, oh, you wanted to do this, or you want to take this vacation or marry this person, whatever, if this is really what you want to do, that has to be the center of what it is.
It's sacrifice.
And all that other stuff has to fit into that motivation.
It's hard.
It's very difficult to do.
It
Extremely
is.
difficult.
Because, I got lucky. I get to do what I want to do.
You do it too.
And I have my own business and all that. And but it's the same thing like when I taught at high school the graphic design, and I would tell students, and they would all be gung-ho. I want to be a graphic design tutor.
High school students.
High school students. I want to do it too. Okay, great. It was the same deal. Okay, to get to where you want to go, you're going to have to do stuff you don't want to do, but you need to do.
Right.
And you're going to learn from it and all that. And they would be like, yeah, I love doing logos for sports teams. Okay, great. You're probably not going to do a logo for a sports team for a long time when you get started. You're going to have to do some ads. You're going to have to do a brochure for a funeral home. You're going to have to do all these things to get there. Just stay with it. And there's so many people that don't want to stay with it.
These kids do not. No. They want it now.
They want it now.
And I think that's a really difficult part, especially when you're in your 20s. And you're with what I went through. And I'm looking at my friends going on these kick-ass trips. Like I said, some owning homes, having nice things. I was fortunate for whatever reason. I'm not a really materialistic person, even to this day. And so I was never motivated by that stuff. But I could see how that'd be distracting where you go, man, I'm making nothing doing radio. I'll just go get the sales job and I can get that car too.
Yeah.
But those things don't fulfill you.
No, they don't.
And I think you learn that pretty quick. And the other thing I always tell them, because I'll have people go, I want to do what you do. I go, good. It's not about can you do what I do now.
Yeah.
Now, yes. Who wouldn't? This is awesome.
Yeah.
I love it.
Right.
And, we get paid well. It's a great career. It's fantastic. I always ask them, can you do the 10 years it took me to get to that point?
Yeah, exactly.
Can you go on the journey that I just described
That's
to
what
you?
they're not seeing.
Right.
No.
That's
even
the thing to ask yourself.
the one thing I saw when I taught was most of the boys or men, all of them are into video games. Almost every one of them.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah,
they
sure.
want and they did graphic design because they either want to design them or they want to do and they're like, this is what I want to do. Okay, great. And you try to explain to them, okay, there's competition out there, and who knows how stable this is anyway. But right now in this classroom, we have 30 people in this classroom. I know there's 15 that want to be graphic designers for video games. You got 15 guys you're competing with right now in a room, in the same room. So are you going to stay on that journey? Are you going to keep going? Are you going to take the hits? That's what I want to ask you too. I know that Jay, you get a little uptight about it sometimes. I'm starting to get used to it better. The criticism. When you do something public, there's a lot of people that will come at you, call you names, they'll say stuff.
I get mad. And I want to call each one of them out. Which I could only imagine you.
What do you do to deal with that? Because I'm sure there's a lot of people that will.
It's a lot, and I've gotten a lot better about it as I've gotten older and more mature, I think, just in life and in my career. And now you get a lot of it on social media.
Sure, that's what I'm getting into.
That's the place.
And I think it's just the natural human reaction of 10 people can tell you, man, I love what you guys do. But the one person goes, you guys suck. I don't know how anybody listens to that or watches it.
Right.
And then you don't even think about the 10 people. All you want is like, what do you mean? Why do I suck? What's wrong? And these 10 people are going, what? Huh?
You don't ever contact them or
I'll respond every once in a while. It depends on what they say.
Okay.
And so sometimes if it's just mean to be mean for the sake of it, and I know sometimes people will say stuff that I just you don't know, you literally don't know what you're talking about. You'll have people now that'll say, oh, ever since you got on the ticket, the station's been doing horrible and the ratings have dropped off and nobody listens. And I know for a fact, I think the first guy that sent me something like that, I said, man, I wish there was a way to know if that was true or not. And I was like, oh, there is. It's called ratings. And I'm like, so I've eliminated you because you don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
Why would I even entertain your opinion if it's completely pointless? But you have some people that are really directly, we had a guy who, when the Musers decided to cut back that hour and we got that extra hour, we knew we were going to get a lot. And I understand it and I get it and it's fine. But we had a guy who was so direct, both to me and Donnie, that goes, hey, a-hole, F you for taking an hour of enjoyment away from my life. And so what I did is I just retweeted it with the thing, can you imagine doing this to somebody you don't know in life?
Right.
That's pretty bad.
Doesn't know the background, doesn't know what happened, anything. Yeah.
And you get stuff like that. I had a guy last weekend that I had posted something about one of the NFL playoff games, I couldn't remember. I have to go look it up. Like something, just throwing it away. Like, oh, whatever about this play. And some guy goes, man, you think you're funny. You're such a D-bag. Your stuff sucks. And so I responded at him. I was like, well, apparently not, since you wanted to respond to me.
Right.
And he goes, oh, what are you going to do? He's like, I'd kick your ass after I blank your wife.
I love it.
Wow.
And so then I retweeted that one, and I said, imagine telling some guy you don't know what you're going to do to his wife. And so a lot of the people that follow me that like me just went after the guy.
Oh, yeah. They'll attack for you.
That's true.
It's
That's a good thing.
It's one of those things where 10 years ago, the first time when I was in Birmingham, and I had a guy who would not leave me alone, and it really bothered me, and I couldn't let it go, and I would respond to him, and finally I was like, hey, what's your email? And I ended up chatting with this dude back and forth, and he was saying such mean stuff to me. He's like, man, I don't understand. Like, I think I do a good show. And it finally got to the core of it. He was like, I can't believe, you've been really nice to me, and I'm really sorry. And I just wish I could do what you do, man. And he went down this hole and explained, like, he had just gotten divorced and he didn't like his job, and he would turn on my show, and it seemed like we were always having fun, and it wasn't fair that I got to have fun and he was going through this stuff.
Right.
And I was like, okay. So at the core of it, you wanted to reflect that onto me.
There's always a reason behind it.
Well, me and you have had it where we'll just get somebody on the show and just let them go. Most of the time it's a politician. And you get a politician on the show. They spout their opinions. We may or may not agree with them. Our only goal here was to get them to talk. We're going to have some stories. And then now we're the a-holes because we had this guy or this woman on the show, and you're just a jerk and all that. The thing I love doing on our broadcast, we're broadcasting high school football, okay? This is not Monday Night Football.
But you get hate?
Oh, a good amount.
Anything in the public eye, people will find a reason to not like
They're
you.
going to get and people will either on Facebook or whatever, they'll say something about you. I've started finding out who they are, and then I give them a shout out on the broadcast.
I love it.
And I'll just do it. Hey, shout out to Jennifer Anderson, who just, David had some great opinions about us, and he'll jump in. We're like, man, glad you're watching.
You know what I got called on A.B. Thibodeau's show?
Huh?
A Nazi asshole.
There you go.
Really?
There you go. Yeah.
I had to laugh at that one. It didn't even hurt my feelings.
But after a while,
because that's just ridiculous.
It's just, again, you just realize, okay, there's going to be people. I don't remember if Jesus came today and healed the world. There's going to be somebody bitching about him.
Yeah.
There's somebody's going to hate.
What took you so long?
Why'd you do it? Why'd you get that guy?
It's always that way.
Yeah. And so anyway, you just move on. Okay, so. I want to talk a little bit about Texas State, Southwest Texas. Both of us were there, Southwest Texas days. I graduated in 90. You graduated
01.
01. So it's
technically I graduated in 2007, but I should have graduated.
I gotcha. Yeah, you were there in 2001.
You took the extended route.
Right.
Yeah, I had radio stuff I was chasing, and school wasn't my thing. So.
Yeah.
Exactly. I remember my dad came down. When you go to Southwest or Texas State, you have fun immediately. There's fun all around.
Yeah, there's some parties.
Yeah, and so my first semester, I was horrible. I had like a 1.6. My roommate had a 1.7. And I remember him telling me, I guess one thing we've learned is if anybody needs any pointers, come to me. I have the 1.7. You have the 1.6. But my dad came down. I was on suspension. Now this is like I'm top 10%. Honor Society, and I'm making a 1.6. My dad just shows up out of the blue to Jackson Hall, the dorm, knocks on the door. I'm like, oh my God, my dad. And he goes, hey, come on, we'll go for a ride. And we get down there and we start driving around. He drives through the campus and he goes, hey, I just wanted to show you all. I go, what are we doing? He goes, I just want to show you all these buildings. Apparently you didn't realize that there's classrooms in these buildings. And this is why you're here. And awesome. Unless you get your ass into these classrooms, I'll be coming back and you're coming home.
So and you're put a little fear in you.
And everything was fine after that. But did you fraternities or anything like that?
No, I didn't do that.
I didn't either.
I spent a lot of time in the radio station.
Sure.
Like I taught myself the editing software and tried to learn it the best that I could and just learned as much as I could about that. But the academic probation happened to me too.
Yeah.
I didn't think anything
probation.
of it.
I wasn't suspension.
Yeah, I had a 1.5, I think.
Oh, so I'm smarter than you.
Yeah.
I had
one semester.
1.6. Yeah.
Well, and so
sounds like a competitive school.
I was doing these bits on my radio show and I was writing them in class. And I didn't know that if you got put on academic probation, they wouldn't let you do stuff like that.
Right.
And so I went back the next semester. I was like, hey, Matt, we need to talk to you. I was like, oh, what's up? They're like, you can't do your radio show. Like,
right.
Why not? They're like, you're on academic probation. Dude was like, what? So why didn't somebody tell me this? So I figured out what GPA I could get that semester so that then I could just cruise the rest of the way.
Did they?
I got like a 3.8 that next semester. And then the rest of the time, you just got like a 2.
Yeah. Well, when I got the probation, they required me to have a tutor. Did they require a tutor?
No, I
for
didn't
you?
have to have a tutor.
I had to have, and the whole thing was I knew how to do it. I knew how to study and all this. I
was just irritated. I was like, if you guys had told me, oh, by the way, if you're on academic probation, you can't do radio, I never would have done that. I'd have paid more attention.
I was a political cartoonist for the Star.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And I couldn't do it.
Is that the school newspaper?
Huh?
School newspaper?
School newspaper. I did the political cartoons. And this is back when the Oilers were training there. The Oilers would have training camp in San Marcos and stuff. So we would always have all that.
That's awesome.
But I missed out on a little bit of that because of the suspension or the probation.
Yeah, you got to tell these kids, man. Kids, if you get put on probation, you can't do stuff you want to do.
Yeah.
They should let you know ahead of time.
They did, yeah.
But I tell you what, that probation was the best thing ever happened to me in college because I got my ass in gear
and then
I started going. Yeah. And everything was fine after that. But yeah, you just need a little bit kick in the pants. Where did you go there? Like when I was there, it was Nephews, Green Parrot.
Yep.
Coast.
Nephews. Green Parrot was huge when I was there.
Yeah, okay.
Did a lot of that. We did a lot of stuff on the square. And then there was my last year. So I moved into apartments. I guess that would have been my junior year out of the dorm. And I had a couple of roommates, but I had an apartment by myself that was these brand new apartments called the Met, like up off like North Bishop on the north side of campus.
Okay, yeah.
And it was right across from this little subdivision called Sagewood, which was where all the dudes that were in frats that didn't live in the houses had duplexes there. And so they had parties all the time.
Yeah.
And I could just walk across the street. And they were really pretty cool about it because they would throw street parties.
Yeah.
And that was... I don't know if it's like this at every campus. Maybe it is. But the cops would sit outside the subdivision, and they wouldn't go and mess with them.
Right.
But if they saw somebody leave and then get into a car, they'd pull them over.
Yeah.
But they left them alone in the little neighborhood area,
Yeah.
and I always thought that was pretty cool.
I was a tour guide at Wonderworld. I was a cave tour guide.
I lived off of Wonderworld one year.
What is Wonderworld?
That's the cave. You have the cave.
Wonderworld Drive.
Wonderworld Drive.
Yeah.
You have the cave. We have a tower. You take people up. I did the tours. So anyway, show Wonderworld here.
Yeah, it's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, here we go.
Oh, wow.
There it is.
And I
Wonderworld
think
Cave and
one of
Adventure
these
Park.
photos could be me. When we did an
No way,
advertisement.
really?
Yeah. Keep moving along. There's this thing where somebody's pointing up, and I'm almost positive it's because we did this brochure when I was
they had
working
color
there.
photos back then.
I know we did. We had to tint them, but anyway, you would a lot of the people that worked at Wonderworld.
Oh, look at you with your little family.
Is that you in the blue shirt?
No, that's not me. That's not me. And you would have the tours like you would have the people. You always have about 30 people on a tour, which amazed me how many people came to Wonderworld.
Yeah.
And
I did it once. Yeah.
did you really?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And
So you're like, and on your left is the stalactites.
you talk about the. Well, no, you don't have stalactites and stalagmites. It's a dry form cave, Jay.
Yeah, come on, man.
It's formed by an earthquake. I'll go into extreme detail here in a bit and go through.
I'd like to hear the whole thing.
But anyway, a lot of the Pikes work there,
Okay,
and so I hung out with them. And if you remember, they had the old hospital was their fraternity house.
Okay, yeah.
It was like 30 rooms in this old building that used to be the hospital. They lived there, and I remember going in there, and it was like freaking Animal House in this place, and it was like the best times ever. And it's like, no, it is not like when you talked about going from community college to whatever. If you get there, it's a whole different world.
Yeah, my senior year was pretty wild.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, because my middle brother Chris ended up going there for a year, and he was a freshman, and he lived in a dorm called Blanco.
Oh yeah, that was new when I lived.
Yeah, it was a pretty nice little dorm.
Yeah.
And so he liked to party, and so me and him would go out and we'd party a lot, and that was a lot of fun.
Well, we lived at Jackson Hall, which was 12 stories, and we would go on the roof. I was telling Matt about this, and we would set up surgical tubing in a Cool Whip cup, and you could have two guys holding the surgical tubing, and you would make a catapult or whatever.
Wow. This sounds like a fun school.
And then you put a water balloon in and you just launch
school.
it on people.
There's your 12. There's
Jackson Hall, yeah. And we
Looks
go
like a
up on the
hospital.
roof, and we go up on the roof and just launch water balloons, and nobody knew where they were coming from.
Yeah.
That was back when Letterman would drop things from a 7-story building, so we could open the windows at that time and just throw things out.
That's incredible.
It's.
I didn't know Jackson was still there. I thought they got rid of it.
I thought it would be gone by now. It's basically prison. You know,
it has to be like the worst dorm.
All it was a room. The beds are nailed down. You had 2 desks that were nailed in, and
One
then
of
you had
them-
a deal.
One of them didn't have air conditioning when I was
That
there.
was Harris.
Okay, I can't remember which one it was.
You'd be going to school in September or late August, and
San
there's no
Marcos.
AC. Yeah,
with no air conditioning. I don't know how people didn't die.
Did they get a discount?
I don't remember. I know that they always stayed with us because people, when it was hot, you'd have buddies come stay with you in your dorm because we had air conditioning. But anyway.
Now, Matt, me and Billy were talking about this earlier. Mm-hmm. Just what your day is like.
Yeah.
Billy was like, I want to know when he wakes up to.
Like, you're not just working that 9 to 1. Aren't you doing other things, or is it just that 9 to 1?
No, I mean, so I usually wake up at 6 and I'll sit down in the little office area in our house and, first half an hour I kind of walk around and just try to think of my thoughts, like what I want to do for the day and that type of thing. And then by 6:30, I sit down at the laptop and I'm looking, what I missed overnight, what do we need?
So you're keeping up on all the news.
Yeah. What's the layout? And I read The Athletic, I read the Dallas Morning News, just trying to see what's the news story, that type of thing. And then about 7, I start getting ready. Head to the station about 7:30. Like I said, we usually get down there, depending on traffic, we're usually there by 8:15. And we get in the little room, throwing out ideas and like, hey, make sure we have this audio cut or make sure we're going to do this here, that type of thing. What do we have? And we're laying it out, kind of making sure we have the angles. And then you do the show. And then after the show, we're done. Like, we leave immediately. And
it's a great hour.
Like, I'm usually home.
So that's like you emailed me and you said, hey, man, I got the whole evening.
Yeah.
I was like, wow.
Yeah, so I'm usually home by 1:30 in the afternoon. And like I said, I try to get away from it for a couple hours. Now, stuff like this with Cowboys coaching stuff, like I'm on Twitter constantly, like, oh man, what's going on?
Do you have inside information? Like, if you want to find out, okay, what's going on here?
There's a couple people I can
call?
text. Yeah. Like, you might shoot a text and be like, hey man, what if, like, hearing this, like, what have you heard? Is that true? Because we do have people that we'll talk to. Like, the last thing you want to do, our job is not to report stuff. They're guys that break news are reporters, like David Moore, somebody like that. That's an actual reporter. We give opinions off reports, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Like, we're entertainers and we inform you, but we give our opinions on that. But there are things you want to make sure that you are giving an opinion on something that's true.
And you get more of the whole story.
And you try to just kind of fill in some of the blanks, and you can ask questions and stuff like that. But yeah, usually I'll try to work out in the afternoon a little bit. And then depending on what's going on that night, especially during football season, you're watching, you watch the games and Mavs games, Stars games, try to get an idea of what's going on with that, like playing the Timberwolves the other night.
Right. They play tonight. They're playing Oklahoma City tonight. And then, like, do you ever worry? Like, do you go in going, man, I hope a lot of people ain't asking about the Stars because I didn't see that last night or whatever?
Sometimes, but you'll get a feel, and you kind of, like, learn the vibe of, like, right now, and I love the Stars. Like, I'm a big Stars fan, and you talk about criticism, you get people who, like, you never talk about the Stars.
Right,
like, man, because I don't want to lose my job.
Right, right.
And so their expectations.
Is that like you never talk about the WNBA?
Never, no.
We don't hear anything. I mean, golly.
I mean, when the Stars are doing something, we have Josh Bogorod, the Stars play-by-play guy, on every Monday. We talk to him for a segment, and we'll throw it in there here and there, but I hate to say it because I am a Stars fan.
Right.
It's not what drives the needle, as they say.
But
and so,
let me ask you, because when you Google your name, do you know what comes up like all over in the beginning? Your hatred of a particular hockey team.
Colorado?
Yes.
Interesting. I was going to say, I know the alien thing comes up. There's some other crap that comes up. There's
your hatred of the Colorado Hurricanes?
Avalanche.
Okay.
What is this all about?
It goes back to the 90s when the Stars and the Avs met in the Western Conference Finals 2 years in a row in the 90s. I was hardcore into the Stars ever since then. And I hated the Avs. I hated their players. I hated Joe Sakic and Peter Forsberg, Adam Foote. I hated those guys. Patrick Waugh. I hated them. And so I hate them to this day. And they're little.
Have they ever contacted you?
No, they haven't. No. I used to call them the Craparado Suckalanch.
Golly.
I don't do that anymore because it seems kind of
But I mean, that as a sports fan or as a team fan, like me growing up was the Redskins. I hated the Redskins.
Okay.
That was back when it was a rivalry.
Yeah, when they were good.
When they were good, all that. And so you just have this hatred that you'll probably carry
like I hate the Eagles. Like I hate Philadelphia.
Yes, right now it's the Eagles.
I can't stand them.
Yeah.
I hope that
I'm literally, and I can't believe I'm doing this. Like, first of all, the worst NFC championship you could have for me, and probably for you, would be Washington versus Philadelphia, which is what we have. But I have to sit there and root for Washington because I hate Philadelphia not even more. But I'm not excited about rooting for Washington. The only thing I can pull out of it is like, I like Dan Quinn. I hope he does well.
Yeah, they got a lot of former Cowboys. They couldn't have done it without guys who were on our best team last year.
Okay, let's get into that. Let's get your insight. The rumor now is that it could be Schottenheimer being the coach for the Cowboys. What's your thoughts? Where do you think this is going? And what are your thoughts if it is Schottenheimer, which I don't think a lot of people are excited about that.
No, and that's the thing is, so if the names that we have heard are correct, and then today, this afternoon, they're talking about how Pete Carroll has been having conversations, which I could understand that because Schottenheimer was his offensive coordinator when they were in Seattle. Originally, as soon as the Mike McCarthy thing didn't work, everybody's like, oh, it's going to be Kellen Moore.
Yeah.
Like 100% it'll be Kellen Moore. And, of course, the first guy they talked to is Kellen Moore. And then Robert Saleh didn't make any sense to me because he has no connection to the franchise, and they usually don't go in that direction. It's pretty rare, especially for a guy that hasn't had NFL success.
Right.
Leslie Frazier was Rooney Rule. That's just reality.
And both those guys have had losing records as head coaches.
Right. And Leslie Frazier hadn't been a head coach in the NFL. His last year was 2013.
Yeah.
That made no sense.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So then Schottenheimer, when that started to pick up steam, I was like, are you kidding me? Because this is a guy who's been an offensive coordinator for 14 seasons, has never gotten an opportunity to be a head coach, despite the fact that his dad, Marty Schottenheimer, was a
stud.
Fairly successful. He did really well in the regular season, left a lot to be desired in the playoffs.
Right.
To be fair.
Which is exactly what we're not wanting.
Right. But his dad has that. He was a good coach.
Yeah.
And so the fact that he could get this deep into his career and had been around a few different teams as offensive coordinator and never got a shot to be a head coach has to be a huge red flag.
I agree.
Of why this guy. It feels like it's going to be Schottenheimer in some sense, but and we asked, speaking of David Moore, he's covered the Cowboys forever for the Dallas Morning News. And so I asked him yesterday when we were talking to him, if Schottenheimer's the guy, will Jason Witten be on the staff? He's like, yes, he will be. And so I think what they're trying to do is find how can we put together something where Jason Witten is the heir apparent, and we've got a guy who's cool with that. And I said this today, and I do think that this is true. If it's Schottenheimer, if you're Jerry, it's almost a win-win for you. Because if you hire Schottenheimer and it works, you're a genius. Nobody thought that was a good idea, but man, you look awesome doing that. If it doesn't work, Jason Witten's ready.
Then he's ready to go.
Right. I knew just like you guys, he couldn't coach today, so I didn't hire him as head coach.
Right.
But he's ready to go now, and he's going to change it and lead us to glory.
But if don't you see, the thing that frustrates me is we see our defensive coordinator from the last few years now in an NFC championship as a head coach again. We could have, had a shot at, you could have had him. You see Kellen Moore, obviously interviewing with everybody as a head coach. He was here. We've had all these guys that were here.
Opportunities.
And I know that the moments weren't right to hire him or whatever, but you want to, I know they did keep Dan Quinn around for a while, hoping that he could be the heir apparent, I think, at some point. But I just keep thinking that this is probably Jerry's last hire. I would think he wants to be a flash guy, that he wants to get a Deion Sanders or something.
Maybe.
Deion Sanders. Now, if somebody said $10,000, bet right now, what's your bet? Who is it?
I'd say Schottenheimer.
How about you?
I'd probably go Schottenheimer too.
But I also
I'm
think
going to do that too.
Okay.
All right, the Pete Carroll conversation is really interesting because
old.
he is, but you kind of wonder, would he be willing to come in? Because he'd let Schottenheimer call the plays, which is what he wants to do, because Schottenheimer didn't do that under McCarthy. And then you get an opportunity. I'm the play caller. Pete Carroll can come in and basically be the CEO of the whole thing.
Right. Be the raw guy.
Right. He may be cool with having Witten on there. If you're Pete Carroll, hey, one last shot. I only want to coach a couple more years anyway. By then, Witten's ready to go.
Yeah.
That would make sense, and that's a guy who I think would get people fired up.
Yeah.
He has success. He has a ring.
I think we'd all be more on board with Pete Carroll than
100% you
Schottenheimer.
would.
Yeah.
Schottenheimer just is.
Well, you're right. A guy that has not, nobody's even talking to him now.
Right, that's the thing. Not a single other team's trying to talk to this guy.
No.
And so you want to hire somebody that no one else has even remotely considered bringing in? Makes no sense.
Right. It just seems like it's, and of course the whole Jerry thing with,
that
you got to work under him and deal with all that
Which
stuff.
is
There's a lot of coaches that are
beast.
like, I ain't doing that.
Right.
And you're missing
And
out.
I will say, because we had an opportunity to interview Schottenheimer a couple years ago at training camp, and he carries himself, like you get that energy that you get off head coaches.
Okay.
He was a really good, just energetic guy, and I have heard that, and I've talked to Kellen Moore before, and I understand what people are saying, that he doesn't command the room. Kellen's a great guy. Kellen is a really cool dude. I've had some good chats with him in the past, but Brian Schottenheimer brings a different aura, like a different energy to where you're like, all right, coach, let's go. Like, I got you, man. I'm in. Like that type of thing.
And obviously the most important thing is if I would think most of the players would be fine with Schottenheimer. I would think. Would you?
I would think so. And again, a lot of it is if you're paying Dak $60 million a year and Dak says, I like Schottenheimer.
Right.
You've invested a ton of money in that guy. If he's happy, there is something to be said for that too, I think.
So the Deion Sanders the rumor,
I don't
not
think
happening.
Happens. No. It helped him to get more money from Colorado. He got to re-up his contract and all that. But I don't think, and I don't know if that would be a good hire anyway, just based on you got two massive egos.
Right.
I mean, that didn't work with Jimmy Johnson and Jerry when they were there. And I mean, the only one that kind of worked was Parcells when he was here, but Parcells was kind of fine with all that crap for a little bit. Then I think he got tired of it.
And Deion's not going to do it if it's not the Deion Sanders
I don't know how
show.
good a coach Deion is, to be honest with you. Deion, I mean, the team's doing well now and stuff, but Deion seems to be more of a recruiter and a guy.
He can motivate guys.
Exactly.
He can motivate
guys. That's what
guys.
I'm getting to. He motivates, and he's got a good staff. Like,
and that's
he
the
gets
key.
a good staff.
If he was going to come to the NFL, who would be his OC? Who would be his DC? How would his staff be? Because he's a CEO type.
Exactly. He's not an X's and O's, we're going to get in the
Which is a big part of it.
Exactly.
I mean,
and that's the thing that
college.
always bothered me about this guy's a great offensive coordinator. He'll be a great coach. Well, that ain't necessarily true. You got to be a manager. You're not calling the plays anymore.
It's a different beast.
How do you handle people?
It's not for everybody.
Exactly.
Because you got to figure out what motivates this dude that doesn't necessarily motivate that guy, and how do I get the best out of both of them? While this other dude, I don't care about that. Run your route this way.
Yeah,
it's different.
Okay, I want to ask you about radio, the future of radio. I'm sure you may get this because I'll tell a quick. We used to do everything on the radio when I first started doing the Yellow Jackets. With Ken Jones, KXEZ, The Possum was what we were on.
The Possum. Man, that's
you
awesome.
Remember that?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And what's his name? I'm forgetting the old George Jones was the guy that he got George Jones to be you're listening to KXEZ,
Really?
The Possum.
That's awesome.
So every time we would go to break, we'd always go, and you're listening to The Possum. We'd always do a George Jones impression, which was the same thing because the owner would call us and go, quit doing that. Well, we never did. It was like, what are you going to do? We're gonna,
he didn't like it.
You're not going to pay us our $100 or whatever for the 2 weeks. But anyway, but I'll never forget we were doing it, and a guy came in, and it was for Royce City, and he's setting up in the booth next to us, and we're like, oh, what station with? And he goes, no, we're doing it online. And I remember thinking, this is back in like 2007, 2008, and I remember like, online, this is not going to work, dude. The future's radio, and I now work for that guy, Terry Gregory, on SportsGram. He was at SportsGram, and it is massive. It is.
That's what I listen to. Like it's all you just click and boom.
So do you think the ticket then at some point, because I listen to the ticket more on my laptop now than as a radio station, as a signal.
Who's got a radio in their home anyway?
Right. That's my point.
Yeah, I stream. I mean, I use the app, the Sports Day app on my phone to stream the shows because you can pause it and you can rewind it and do some things.
Yeah, you can
do
more.
y'all know, 30% are listening online?
Yeah, I forget what the number is, but yeah, we know.
It's got to be like half and half probably?
Yeah, it's something like that. I mean, it's a really high number. A lot of people listen to the stream. But I'm actually surprised by how many people still listen to actual terrestrial radio. And that's something, we were talking about that award that I won as a senior in college, and they asked us that question, like, where do you think the future of radio in 20 years? And here we are 20 years later, and I remember flat out saying at the time, I was like, well, I don't think music radio will exist anymore. It'll just go away. But talk radio will still be around because people will always want opinions. And I think there's some truth to that. I honestly am surprised that music radio still exists.
I agree. I just plug in my iPhone.
Exactly. If I want music, I'm not going to let some other guy choose it for me.
But you know what? Yeah. The other day I didn't have my phone, and I turned on the Kid Craddock show.
Right.
And I was just like, oh, I miss all that. So there's that, you know what I mean?
They still have the Kid Craddock show, even though
it's still called the Kid Craddock show.
Kelly Raspberry still
has Kelly Raspberry's awesome.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, she's great. She's a great person.
Yeah.
But I missed all that.
Yeah.
Not listening to it on the radio station.
And I feel horrible saying that because if you ever come up to the Cumulus Studios in downtown Dallas, our studios here, literally the door next to us is KSCS 96.3, and on the other side is the Wolf 99.5. So I see these people every day. And you can see the ratings, and they're still doing fine.
Yeah,
and it's really interesting to me. And
is it a generational thing, though? I think is what we're worried about.
I do wonder that because younger people I know, they don't listen to the radio at all, ever.
Right.
Even with the stuff that we do a lot of the times, and that's not really our target demo. But I just wonder, as you get older, is it easier? You just jump in your car and it's there, or you plug in a stream because you don't feel like trying to find something or mess with it? I don't know. I know people on radio are concerned on the music side more so than the talk side.
And that's a good point. I just wonder, like things like what we're doing right now. I mean, you're getting opinions. We're doing everybody has a podcast,
right?
And so, but none of them are like ours.
Right.
We're different.
This transcends.
but the radio part, like for instance, when I want to hear opinions now, I used to go to KLIF or the Ticket or whatever. I still go to the Ticket only because I like the entertainment value of it, and I like all the personalities and all that. And of course, it's sports. It works out great. And that was the greatest idea ever, was to have a sports radio station that didn't do just sports, that had guy stuff, that all of us identify with. Then now they start bringing in, I know they have a ton of women viewers now. I think a lot more women listen to it now, watching.
And I'm not a sports fan.
Right.
But today I totally enjoyed your show.
Thanks, yeah.
Like, it's like, y'all are hilarious.
Right.
The stories, it's great.
You identify with everybody.
Yeah.
And it's great.
Yeah,
that's the key.
Yeah. And so I just wonder at some point you'd have to think that it's going to go to, okay, we're going to always have the signal as long as that's around, but you got to start catering now towards
it's gotta
streaming.
Be digital.
Yeah. And people, because I do that. Like, I'll be in the car and I pull in the driveway and I'll be like, oh man, this is great. But and then I go in the house and I didn't mean to go, let me pop it on the stream. Mm-hmm. Then you forget. And then pretty soon you're like, oh, crap, I just missed an hour, But you get on the stream, you can kind of go back.
You can rewind it.
Yeah, you can rewind it and all that, which is a better thing.
Do you think the station owners really care either way?
No, because
same difference.
I think the advertising is going to be the thing.
Because you can skip.
Yes,
I think some of that.
You can't make the people listen to the advertising on streaming. You can skip it.
Well, you've seen like on some of these Netflix and Hulu,
right?
Sure,
you've got to listen.
You got to listen
Maybe
to
that'll
it.
Happen.
Yeah,
and I think sometimes like probably the most powerful advertisements that we do are the endorsements that we're reading them ourselves or saying them ourselves, where you just go right into it.
Yeah,
and I think that carries a lot of weight. But yeah, it's really interesting, like the future of the whole thing, because the numbers that we see sometimes. If you had asked me maybe even 10 years ago that it would still be going this strong, just actual radio over-the-air broadcast, I would be a little surprised by that. But people are still ingesting actual over-the-air FM signal radio.
Talk radio especially, I would imagine.
Yeah, and I think talk radio, I still do believe that especially in this town, that if you can be local and you can appeal to the people that are local around you, like you guys doing this, rock wall appeal.
Right.
That still carries a lot of weight. And I think radio still provides a local news angle, a local vibe, a local voice to, I saw that and I go to those places and I do those things. And with the Cowboys, especially, as long as they are still in existence, people are always going to want to talk about the Dallas Cowboys and the different things that are happening.
Well, you even go to ESPN now. Like, you go to those shows, the Get Up and all these morning shows they have, and there ain't a time that they don't have a segment about the Cowboys. No matter what.
And that's national.
Right, because and then you'll see some of the people that are on and go, man, are we still talking Cowboys? And they'll be like, yeah, that's the ratings. That's what people want to talk about. One thing I will watch in the mornings now, and then it's on TV, it's on CBS Sports channel, is Boomer and Geo out of New York.
Yeah,
and it's like the Fan out of New York. And you're right, because I'll pop it on because I like their opinions on some stuff now and then. I also want to hear like something happens with the Cowboys. I want to hear the outside voices, what they think, not just our local guys. I want to hear what the outside people have to say. It's like when Trump won. I'm going to MSNBC just to see those people just freak out. I want to go watch that a little bit, So, but anyway. But I'll go on there, but they will lose me relatively quick because they start talking the local stuff.
Right, yeah.
And they start talking about people that I don't know. These people.
What?
Yeah, what are they talking about? And I'm sure the people there are like us with the Ticket, because y'all start talking about people and you're like, oh yeah, that guy, he hates the Avalanche. I want to hear what he has to say, and all that stuff. So
and you do. I think a lot of what it is, and this can be hard to do for some people, is just being who you are. Like, be real. We talk about our lives. We talk about our problems. I had hernia surgery last year, and I talked about that process and all about it and the pain and everything.
People
it's because you identify with it and you connect with it. Because you're like, man, I've gone through that. Like, I've talked about being divorced and sometimes how difficult it can be to be a divorced dad and not getting to see my kid as much as I want, and just things like that. And I think when people see that, man, you're a real human
Yes, that's
and
a
you
good
have
point.
opinions, but they're your opinions and you're real, then you, like you're talking about, that entertainment aspect and that real aspect of like, man, I buy TVs and I'll talk to my friends about,
Right.
you know, you're just sitting around. You want it to feel like you're hanging out
like
with your
you're
friends.
just
And,
have
you
you
know-
ever gone too personal and like, oh, why did I do that?
Or get like the wife mad or something,
Yeah,
say something. Because
something.
I've gotten
Or
that
about a
numerous
buddy.
times.
Yeah, you talk about your wife.
I talk
a
about
lot.
Autumn all the time. Yeah.
No, I think honestly the biggest adjustment, and I didn't have to make it, but it was her mom probably.
Did you talk about your mother-in-law?
No, I wasn't talking about my mother-in-law. It's my mom got used to it because I've been doing it my whole
Right,
life, and she's
right.
like,
Yeah.
"Oh, whatever," you know. And I've always been real, and I will talk about things on the air that are real. And I think her mom a couple of times early on, like, because we've been together 10 years, I think at one point she probably was like, you know, I can't believe, like, are you comfortable with Matt saying that? And my wife Molly was like, yeah, I mean, that's what he
how it
does.
goes.
Like, that's just him.
That's what makes it good.
And so now, yeah,
It
and
is.
so you get, I can understand that from somebody that. It's a very unique job to have somebody in your family that does a radio show for a living.
Yeah,
Because a lot
I'd
of
be
people,
scared. Like,
Yeah,
they
because
go-
you don't control it.
right?
And what's he going to say? You know, and is it going to? Because that's what I've learned is it will. You got to still be careful a little bit to not embarrass people. I will give Autumn
Yeah, I
a
don't
hard
do
time
that.
on the air.
Yeah.
But you could totally use that. Like if a brother or relative's an asshole. You say,
Oh, yeah,
okay,
sometimes.
I got you. We'll see tomorrow when I
Right.
tell the
Like-
story. You know.
I'll talk about my brother and some of the things that he does, which are kind of fun. But I know that, you know,
But you know that he's probably cool with it.
right.
Yeah.
And I don't tell personal stories of anybody in my family
Right.
and things like that because
Yeah,
they didn't
yeah.
choose that. And I am, you know, when you talk about the criticism and stuff, I'm extremely defensive of my wife and my family because they didn't
Right.
put
They didn't
themselves
ask.
there.
Right.
China,
Like, you want
Right.
to say something to me or about me, that's fine because I
Right.
chose to do this and I know
Yeah,
it comes
yeah.
with that.
Right.
But for a long time, I never said the names of people I was dating or I didn't say my wife's name on the air for forever.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want people
I don't
to
blame you.
know who she was.
Googling her, looking
Right.
her up.
And like, you don't
When,
need, what difference does that make?
Yeah,
you don't know
fine.
anything about this.
My wife taught in Rockwall for a long time, and then she took a job in Saxe, teach high school there. She had taught kindergarten all the time here. Goes to Saxe, and when she goes to interview, the principal there comes up to her and he goes, he said something to the effect of, and he made some comment to her about, he goes, so what's it like? Because I always refer to Autumn as my current wife, joking around. I always say, well, the current wife is listening in, so I'm going to give her a shout out, whatever. And then he came in apparently and he said, so what's it like being the current wife? And she's like, what are you talking about? And he goes, well, I hear it on the broadcast. You know, he'll watch the games or whatever.
That's awesome.
And so that's when you realize, oh my gosh, there's other
People
people
remember
out
that.
there
Yeah.
holding on to that, and you got to be careful. You don't want to throw something. You know, you're right. As long as it's me. The only time I've ever really got really mad was recently. We just did when we had Stan Britton on talking about the Bond deal,
that
and there's a
lady.
lady on Facebook that got mad and then started ripping into Autumn because
She was-
she's a teacher, and
Yes.
just it's like no, you
And
don't get onto
she
her.
was making up lies.
Yeah.
As if we were paid by the school district.
Right.
No, we just believe the bond should have been passed. Dumbasses.
Right. Well, and then,
You know?
but then she brought in Autumn, my
Yeah.
wife. That was
What?
the thing that got me mad. She wasn't even on the deal. Don't bring her in, like you said. That's the thing that will get me extremely angry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But to a degree, it's my fault because I have joked around about her, but I don't do anything. But so people
But,
will
yeah.
connect it. But yeah, it's just a hard
It's just
line to walk. But
weird.
there's been many times where you kind of. You know, come back home like, hey, did you listen? You know, whatever.
And she listens.
And you're got a billion more people than we have
gosh.
listening. So
Yeah, I just do my thing. And
Do you go through comments?
No, not. I don't look at anything online and like Twitter. If it's directly sent to me, then yeah, I see
If you
that.
post, you don't want to read all 200.
No, I wouldn't. I don't read them all. Like if I see somebody responded to something, I mute a lot of people. Like if you say, I'm like, I
don't wanna hear it.
I don't care, whatever. But I know because there's all kinds of crap online that I had some friends that will tell me about. I'm like, I don't stop. Don't tell me anything.
Yeah,
about it.
I
I
don't
don't want
wanna
to
hear
know.
it.
I don't
Yeah.
care.
Yeah,
It doesn't matter.
yeah.
Yeah, but they're saying this. It's not true. Fine, cool.
Yeah.
We know it's not true.
Right.
Why are you upset?
don't go- yeah.
It doesn't matter. I'm not going to
I
look
think
at
it
any of
does take maturity to get through that to a degree because I know that I've been doing this almost 20 years on a much smaller scale than you. But even the minor things back in the day, it bothered me, and now
Yeah, it did.
I'm
Years ago,
I'm
yeah.
more now like
Like if people say, y'all talk too much about not sports.
Yeah, because me and David will joke around during the broadcast.
And some people want to.
Yeah, and we'll talk about. In fact, our joke is always we'll try to squeeze the ball game in as much as possible, but we want to talk about that chicken fried steak we got, or whatever.
I mean,
but most people are fine with it, and you just go
with
because the deal is if people didn't like it, people would have come to us. The owners would have come to us and said, "By the way, we don't want that anymore." Like your Fisher Price meth lab.
I'll say
after the show, you're gonna have to tell us.
Man, if I could remember, I would have said what it was. I honestly don't.
It dealt with meth. And
man, that was 20 years ago, probably.
There's so much there of Fisher Price meth lab. You can just see the possibilities.
Now, so can we talk aliens?
Yeah.
All right.
And I mean, I want to do this seriously because, from what I understand. And I'm not making light of this because
you're all in on aliens.
I am.
Should be.
I am.
I know you are.
Tell us. Okay, so for those that don't know, you at some point you honestly believed you were abducted.
At some point, I believed. Past, yes, because now
you've changed your thought. But tell us. I want to hear the whole thing. No judgment. Every detail.
I'm judging.
I want to hear
I'm judging right away.
No, but I was glad because I told the story on the ticket years ago, and I'm glad I did because it helped change my viewpoint on it. But for several years of my life, so when I moved to Florida, like I talked about, I lived in Lake City. Remember, that was the roach apartment that I hated, and it backed up to this like pond wood area thing. And
sounds like a perfect place for an alien landing.
I was going to say I can see the movie.
And so one night I woke up or I thought I was awake, and I was like, man, I'm awake. And I remember just like being frozen and super afraid. And there were the prototypical grays, one on each side of my bed and two at the feet of my bed. And I remember it saying like, this is a dream, wake up, wake up. And I couldn't wake up. And I remember, it sounds so ridiculous, but I remember hearing them say, we're not going to hurt you. Everything's okay. But
holy cow.
What did they look like?
Like the prototypical big eyes, gray skin, I would guess 4.5 feet tall.
Okay, skinny arms.
Yeah.
Which many people describe that have sightings describe.
Right. And I'm somebody that I do believe that extraterrestrial life exists somewhere in the universe.
Were you like in terror?
No, I was horrified.
Okay.
And I couldn't make myself get up. I was like, wake up, this is a dream. I was like, oh my God, I am awake. And then I remember seeing, like that. It looked exactly like that. Yeah, the prototypical alien.
Oh my gosh.
And so
no clothes, No,
just like that. And I remember next like experiencing like being like in a doctor's office type place, but like a nice one, like mahogany, like a really nice office, like in this waiting area, and seeing them like milling about kind of. And then the next thing I know, I'm back in my bed and I'm telling it, wake up, you have to wake up. And I'm looking like, you're like this. You're like,
but is this as
real?
Yes,
as real as it is right now?
And I couldn't move. I'm frozen in fear.
Which is you hear this commonly with
and
stories.
I remember just like screaming in my head, wake up. And then finally, feels like I dropped down on the bed and I turn on my light and there's nothing there. And I am, dude, I kid you not, I did not go back to sleep. I was so horrified of what I experienced. I slept with the lights on in my apartment for months after that. I had
stuck with you.
That is crazy.
So just seeing that image, did it kind of?
Not anymore.
You're over it. Okay.
So for a long time, seeing something like that, I would have started crying.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
So after I had this experience, I had a really difficult time sleeping alone.
So he brings it up.
Yeah.
Let's show it again.
We want to see you cry. This is not a podcast if you don't cry. So.
Oh, right.
And I like the first thing you went to was he naked? You know, like why do you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, so like I just remember seeing them from like here up. So I don't know. Maybe they had
were they muscular? Did they move well?
Did they have?
They really
do
weren't
push-ups?
that muscular,
Anatomically correct?
But no, man, it was crazy and. Like I couldn't sleep without the lights on unless somebody was with me for months. And I was horrified about this. And I remember we went to the preview of some movie. And you remember the movie The Fourth Kind that came out?
No.
It was an alien abduction movie.
Why
did you go to that?
I didn't go to that movie.
They
showed a preview of that movie for the movie. And I froze and the girl next to me was like, are you okay? Because she was like, you're crying. I was like,
oh, wow.
You knew at that point. You knew it was
yes.
real.
It was what I described. to me, was a real experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That movie, yes. So
Golly.
I told this story on the ticket once. This is probably like 2010, 2011. And Gordon Keith, who's on the morning show at the Musers, I told it on the Hardline, and then I told it on the Musers, and then Gordon talked to me about it. He said, what you're describing sounds a lot like sleep paralysis. And I was like, I don't know what that is. He's like, you should look into that. Yeah. So I was like, oh my, yes, obviously I don't want to have been abducted by aliens. That's absurd. Like, that's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I read up on sleep paralysis, and I had a couple of P1s who said, dude, I had a similar experience. It was sleep paralysis, I'm telling you. And so after reading about that, it describes what I experienced to a T.
So where do the aliens come in on
Well,
sleep
so apparently
paralysis?
you could have like a sleep paralysis incident and hallucinate, and you're in a dream state where you're dreaming, but you're also almost like essentially awake.
Okay.
So you interpret it as being real as a dream can be, because you're somewhat conscious, but you're still also somewhat dreaming, essentially.
Gotcha.
I don't buy it.
What? That you still think it's aliens? You want
yes.
it to be aliens?
Because you
don't.
knew.
Jeez.
But you knew it was real.
Right, but if you read about sleep paralysis, which is weird because it says narcolepsy or sleep apnea, which I don't have those, but I'm telling you, reading about that had to be what it was, because I was frozen, because your body, to protect yourself when you sleep, sometimes you can't move, but you're asleep and you're dreaming. And so
do you think it could have been anything demonic?
I suppose it could have been.
A lot of people are saying, like Tucker Carlson, why are you looking at me like this?
You want it to be aliens so bad. You do. You want it to be aliens.
I don't want it to be. I know you don't.
I don't either.
I wouldn't either. If
it
I
was sleep paralysis.
Okay.
No, like
Jay's bringing in demons.
I don't think it was
Many people believe aliens are demons, fallen angels,
right?
That are still here on Earth or in the water, because there's scriptures that say they will arise from the water.
There's also a theory that they are highly evolved, thousands of years in the future, humans who are time traveling and are coming back to Right, and that's why they are humanoid in appearance and kind of look like us with two arms and legs, and their heads are bigger because our brains have evolved and are bigger, and they don't need their muscles and stuff. And so they are functioning at a higher, like insane level of intelligence, and time travel back to study different periods of time.
See, that would make
when they spoke
more
to you,
sense.
Was it telepathically? You could just tell.
Yeah, I
you
believe.
didn't hear a sound.
No, I think it was
didn't
just,
sound like James Earl Jones.
No,
or anything.
no, it wasn't like.
And what all did they say? Did they say
Matt,
anything
I am
else?
your father.
No, just like, we're not here to hurt you. Everything's okay. That's all I remember from it. But yeah,
and you don't remember any, like, a lot of people that have this will say, well, they probed me and they did all this stuff. You didn't have any of that.
No.
Oh, you're going to laugh at that. You're all into demons.
No, but again,
probing is off
no,
the
I didn't
charts.
get probed.
That's just over the top. I mean, come on.
Some hot alien chick didn't try to get impregnated by me.
Yeah, I want the hot alien
let's
chick.
make a human alien baby. That didn't happen.
What's Total Recall? Don't you have the three-boobed alien
Yeah, God,
chick?
I could only wish.
Yeah. I want that alien.
Unfortunately, I didn't experience
That's not
that.
what these guys look like.
No, that's crazy, man. For years and years, I was horrified. And then when I did some research on sleep paralysis, because that, honestly, the description of that is what I experienced.
And so that
makes way more sense.
It does make sense.
Well, I'll say this. Like, when I got really sick with COVID, like, I was hospitalized and everything, and they finally sent me home, I was having hallucinations. And I swear to God that my daughter, my wife came home one day, and I'm just in my chair, and she goes, how'd everything go? I go, me and Berkeley had a great conversation. We've been talking for a while. And she's like, well, Berkeley's not here. And I'm like, no, she's here. And I to this day know that we had, but I didn't. And I think the brain is so crazy
it can do that.
It can do that stuff, that everything is real.
Yeah, it was absolutely real to you.
You people that took acid, when people take acid, these things are real.
Mushrooms and all that, you'll see some crazy
and
stuff.
And so I think that is, I would say that is
Probably
legitimate, what the sleep paralysis or whatever. And for whatever reason, when our brains start doing that, there's nothing we can do.
Yeah, because think about it. We've all had dreams that seem very real. Like
you wake up sweating and all that.
Right, and then you wake up, you're like, I was sleeping.
Yeah.
And so you can experience that, but you're also somewhat conscious. So you are, man, I need to wake up. Oh, I am awake. But your body is still frozen in that dreamlike state.
So you were thinking this has to be a dream.
Yeah,
Like,
at the time
up.
I was like, wake up. And then I was like, oh my God, I can't move. Like, this is real.
See, and that's the thing I don't get with
Bizarre.
what you just went through. You just had this crazy a Christmas Carol where the three spirits visit Ebenezer Scrooge, and after it's over, he's just cool and he's out helping everybody. No, you're freaking out. You just had three spirits. You got three spirits take you back in time and all this
stuff. One of them sucked. One of them showed you the worst life possible.
You're not next day going, man, everyththing's cool now.
I'm all right.
I'm good.
Right.
So I'm with you on that.
It's intense, man. I wouldn't wish that on anyone.
Oh my gosh, that is scary.
Could only imagine.
That is scary. Okay, we always have these questions we ask everybody. Oh wait, first of all, what degree did you get in college?
I ended up majoring. I changed my major at the end. I was almost a double major, but my official degree is in, I think it's called broadcast communication, mass media, with a minor in theater.
That's great because a lot of times too, you see people that get degrees in something they don't do that for a living. I switched
it so I could take more classes in that major because to get a theater major at Texas State back then was a crazy amount of hours. Because I had enough that at some schools I could have double majored because I had a ton of theater.
I remember, the drama building is the one with the moat around it. At least when I was there, that's what it was.
The
circle.
I dated,
the circle, and they had I dated a girl that was in, and she did a number of plays, and we'd go to them.
Yeah,
and they were great. I mean,
that was
high
level stuff. Man.
That was really good stuff. And so you did that too. Did you do?
Okay. Yeah, I did theater there for a little bit. Did theater at Howard Payne, and I'd do a theater.
Would you do it now?
No, I haven't done a play in forever. I would.
Would you have time? You may not have time.
Yeah, that's the key is it would have to be somebody that was with an understanding of I don't want to rehearse a lot.
I just want to show up and do it.
You can't miss. If you miss, it's a big deal.
It can be if you just got to know how to recover that. But I have a buddy of mine that does a lot of community theater that I know really well.
No, I mean at the show.
No, I couldn't miss a show. But since our show's in the morning, most rehearsals for community stuff is at night.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I could do that, but I wouldn't want to go do rehearsals 4 or 5 nights a week.
But if you're sick and you wake up, you still kind of need to go. I mean, it's a big deal, I would imagine.
Yeah, they don't.
Or not a big deal.
If you're sick, they wouldn't want you to come up there. We can do it from home. I don't want to miss.
I remember during COVID, y'all were all doing it.
Yeah, everybody did it from the house.
Yeah.
And we did that. And I would, unless I just couldn't talk.
Now, if you ever do get back into Rockwall Community Theater, you can always stay with us right around the corner.
All right.
He's in the district.
Just stay. We have a couple,
we're empty nesters. We got a couple rooms, so we're good.
You should do that.
Yeah, I might sometime. But
so have you ever made it on TV or a commercial or anything like that?
I did a couple of tiny independent films that I don't even know where you could look at them.
Oh, really?
I have an IMDb.
We're going to dig them up.
Do you really?
Yeah,
okay, we're going to dig them up.
Let's check that out.
Some silly short film called Friendly Fire. I don't think I ever actually got a commercial. I did a lot of commercial auditions. I don't think I got one ever, unfortunately. I did a lot of theater. I did a lot of plays and stuff in college.
That's cool.
I always enjoyed that. It was a lot of fun.
All right. Let me see here. I have the Matt McClearin show.
Yeah, if you go IMDb,
right.
It's just the one credit.
IMDb. Hey, but you're on there.
Yeah, somehow. I don't know why. At least I was last time I looked. If you go there and type in my name, that little Friendly Fire credit
See, I thought you would have given us I had a buddy from college that he ended up was an actor, and he ended up being on. But all of them were doing the same thing. They all were on what's the Chuck Norris show?
Oh, Walker, Texas.
Texas. Everybody did Walker, Texas Ranger.
Everything that films in Texas.
Yeah, in Texas, he was in all those shows. He was in Friday Night Lights series. He was in, but always
Spell it. It's McClearin. See if it comes up. LeaRin. There it is.
No, just aliens.
I see Matt McClearin. Let's say Friendly Fire.
Yeah.
For my credit, I can't tell. All right, known for Friendly Fire.
What was that about?
Not the ticket.
No,
Friendly Fire.
It's that thing. It was. We shot that over a weekend, and that was a group of friends playing video games and just guys hanging out. And I was the guy who would get really angry and throw the controller and break stuff, and that was pretty cool.
Did you get paid?
Yeah, I got paid a little bit for it, but that was when they were shooting a short to then submit to film festivals in hopes that somebody would want to make a film, an actual movie out of it.
Okay.
I guess nobody ever did. So, but I did a couple of things like that, and that was the only one that ever was that was movie set. We shot in this guy's house, and a lot of sitting around filming. Film is boring. It's just boring.
What's the best role you've ever played?
Real quick. I want to give this a synopsis.
Go on. Okay, go on.
It's not just it's just a game. That is until a misplaced grenade sets off a pin-up chain reaction of emotions between 6 best friends, answering once and for all just who did use all the dryer sheets.
Well, I don't know, man. It's like some stoner
That
thing.
sounds like a must
Guys,
watch.
Yeah, it was.
And there you are. You were played Mark.
That's right. Yeah, it was Mark. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So the best role, I don't know best role.
Your favorite?
My favorite
did
role.
you just love playing?
There's a play, it was a 3-person play called On the Road, if I remember correctly, about 2 journalists who are interviewing a serial killer. And I played the serial killer.
Oh, wow.
And I love that. That was in college. And at the end of it, the girl who was interviewing me somehow was I was in her hotel room for some reason as she was interviewing me. And I just remember her, we would look at each other and I forget she asked me something and then the lights go out and you hear a scream and then that's the end of the play. And she would always tell me, she's like, I hated that because the way you looked at me right before the lights went out, I thought you really wanted to kill me. I was like, well, I was picturing in my mind that I was.
You really thought you were a psycho, didn't
That's
you?
a good actor right there,
No,
man.
but I was like, and now that girl, her name is Laura Alt and she is a working actress. Like she's been in a bunch of commercials and she was in a couple of TV shows recently and stuff too. So she's cool.
So in all your, I'm looking up Laura Alt now. In all your,
There she is. Yeah, that's Laura.
Oh, yeah.
there you go.
I know this girl, yeah.
Yeah, she's been in a ton of commercials.
She's one of those you don't know their name, but you know
Yeah.
her.
Yeah. You interview a lot. You've obviously interviewed a lot of players and all that. Have you ever pissed any of them off?
That's a good question.
Yeah. Is there one like you're like, he ain't gonna talk to me, man, that guy? Because I got to piss off a celebrity late last year, and I'm kind of proud of it.
Really?
You're not going to say his name?
I'm not gonna say his name.
What an asshole. Say it.
No, I'm not saying it. It's an actor that was in a prominent.
Oh my God, Bradley Cooper.
No,
Tom Cruise?
he was in a prominent movie that we all grew up with.
Series, you
Yeah,
you
and
know
there was a
him.
famous
You-
scene
Okay.
in it, and I
All
brought
right.
up the scene, and he got really
He's
mad that I
cuckoo.
brought up
Really?
the scene.
Cuckoo.
Yeah.
He basically.
I mean, he doesn't look great in the scene, but it's a iconic scene. And I just was doing graphics for him, and that's how I got to know
Okay,
him.
all right.
And so
Wow.
all of a sudden, we were going to have him come on. We always get, I'm going to have you do one. We always do liners for our
Sure, yeah, yeah.
our football game. So, I was like, hey, man, can you say I'm blah, blah, blah? And they always say something that's kind of
from the movie that
from
he's
the
known
movie
from.
they did or
Right.
something.
Everybody
kinda,
knows it.
and you're
He doesn't
watching the
want it to
Rockwell.
be, but-
Yeah, and you're watching Rockwell Yellow Jackets or whatever. So I sent him an email. I was like, hey, man, just do that. And I referred the movie, and man, I got an email back like, you cannot. I can't believe you referenced
when
that.
I read it, I thought
He went off the charts. And so I'm like, so I'm wondering if you've ever had anything where you just kind of done something and you're
or
just
was
kind
anybody
of going
horrible
along.
to you?
Yeah, I mean, I've had really bad interviews where they just had nothing.
Yeah.
And those are the worst.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've had a couple people hang up before.
Okay.
I don't remember exactly off the top of my head, but I've had some athletes or whatever that didn't like the question and they just hang up on you.
Who were they?
I would tell you if I could remember.
I can't
Yeah.
remember.
But some of them, there's
Who's
just
the nicest? Who's the greatest that you've interviewed? that
man.
was just
We've
over-
had. I think Kirby Smart is fantastic. The coach from Georgia, he's really good. James Franklin, the coach now at Penn State,
Really?
interviewed him when he was at Vanderbilt. He was awesome.
Okay.
Really enjoyed him. Brian Schottenheimer was fantastic
Okay.
and gave some really insightful interviews. A lot of the times it's more the coaches than the players because the players are really short and they don't really care. A lot of the times they don't want to do it. They're afraid to say too much. Things like that. We had
People
a chance.
turn it around and
Yeah, we've had a chance to interview. I mean, this is like a year ago. We interviewed Sherry from the Sherry Show on TV.
Yeah.
The comedian and all
Yeah.
that. She has her own
Yes.
daytime talk show.
Yeah.
She was awesome. Really enjoyed
Oh,
chatting
really?
with her. So yeah, those are the ones that come to my mind probably the most. Like every so often you'll run into somebody who doesn't mind having more of a conversation like this versus being interviewed.
Right.
Where it's like, oh my God, I'm glad I prepared 35 questions.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
because
Yeah,
we
yeah,
have 5
Yeah.
minutes and I need to ask them all. And that drives me
That's
nuts.
gotta
I'm
be
like, really?
tough.
That's all you
Well,
got?
we've stopped. We don't do it as much anymore with high school kids. They don't. It's tough for them to
when you
answer.
get them up there in the
Yeah,
booth, they're like,
they are. It's tough for them to answer questions. So we've just kind of stayed away. We'll just interview the coaches because the poor kids, they're like, they just kind of freeze a little bit
Yeah.
and stuff,
Man.
and so and they're not experienced with it.
Not trying to interview the guy, but one time when I was grabbing audio back at the ticket, Adrian Beltre had hit like a walk-off home run. And so I had been in, I guess Ron Washington was the manager, if I remember correctly. And so I'd been listening to his post-game press conference. And so then I went into the locker room to try to get audio. and Adrian, they were trying to get out because they had a flight to catch and all this. And I guess everybody had already talked to him, so I was like, oh man, like I need to get him to say something because he hit the game-winning home run, and I need to have some audio from him. So I walked up to him and was like, Adrian, excuse me, I'm so sorry. I was listening to Wash. Do you mind if I ask you a couple of questions? And you could tell he was irritated, but he was cool, and he was like, okay. And I was like, so, if you could just kind of talk me through that last at bat, what were you looking for up there because you crushed that pitch? And he goes, fastball. And that was it. And I was like, no, what? I was like, oh my God. I was like, and now I can't ask you anything else. And I was like, oh no.
That was supposed to be a 60-second.
I was hoping for a little more.
Yeah.
And I didn't get anything. And then there was, and I don't want to say his name but this has happened before with an athlete in the clubhouse where he had a locker next to somebody that we all wanted to talk to. And it was after they lost a game. And the other player was just saying the F word really loud because he was irritated and didn't want us to be able to get any usable audio.
Oh.
I've seen some players that have done some things that make you not like that player.
Yeah.
But most of the time they're pretty cool. Hockey players are awesome.
That's what I've heard. I've heard hockey players are always. Now, does it affect your fanhood when you start covering the team? Does that affect it some?
It'll affect my fanhood for certain players that I see do things or say things where I'm like, man, so you're that kind of a guy.
Yeah,
like the dude yelling the F word over and over. That blew my mind. And I saw him treat some people like reporters in a certain way where I just...
This is somebody we'd know.
Yeah, you'd know him. And it's just that you can't forget that.
Yeah.
And then there are standout guys, and I think most people probably know them, like Michael Young or Dirk or even Dak, who will always, no matter what the situation is, answer the question. You may not like the answer, and it may be a little generic, but he'll at least look in the face and give you the answer, which I always have a lot of respect for. Because
you got to go back to, people get mad. Like anytime you see a celebrity somewhere, and if you do say hi or whatever to them, which I kind of now decided I'm not going to say anything because I don't want that bad. And now that I've had this incident, but I thought we were all capiche and everything was great because we had been talking for a long time about the graphics and things we'd done.
Man, that is wild.
And then all of a sudden it was crazy.
He said, I can't even believe that you would go there.
Yeah,
really?
Yeah, it was surprising because he emailed me right back when I sent it, and I thought, oh man, he's already done it. This is so nice. And then I went back, and he's just ripping me like, I can't believe you brought this up. That is not my career. That you minimized my career to that one. And I was no, I just.
By the way, total B-lister, C-lister by now. His days were the 80s.
Well, but anyway,
okay.
But you get to a point though that I sometimes look back or look at these people going, man, how many people have they had to deal with today? And they're having, and then all of a sudden you come up and say, hey, man, can you just say hi or can I get your autograph, whatever it was. They're going to, after a while, anybody would be.
Somebody wants something from them day in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And sometimes you kind of feel for them, not that, that's part of their job and all that. I feel for them and feel sorry for them, but you can understand people being at times. And especially when they're eating, you see somebody and you'll see these people going to this guy.
It happens from time to time, even with me, like being in radio.
Yeah.
Like
people come up to you.
Yeah, like just out and about whenever you're doing. And I always appreciate, I think it's cool, I never want to lose that vibe. But there is because especially with what we do, like if you listen to a show every day, you'd know us, you know who we are, you know our lives and stuff. But we don't know you.
Right.
And so I think sometimes that gets lost.
Weird. And your voice is also going to be recognized.
Yeah, and you'll have, like, a lot of people will come up to me, and I don't mind, I'll chat with anybody for 5 minutes. That's cool, but it'll happen from time to time where you kind of like, all right, man, well, hey, really nice to meet you. And then they just want to stand and you're
a total stranger.
Right.
But they know you.
I had a guy once that said that. Like we were talking and he was telling me things about like, remember when you did this? I was like, oh yeah, I remember that. Cool. And I was talking to him, he goes,
that was so awesome when
and then he said it. He goes, I just realized you don't have no idea who I am. And I was like, you're right, I don't.
But also that's really cool.
I know.
Because you're connecting with people as if you're their friends.
Yeah. No, it doesn't bother me at all.
It's a neat connection.
I think I appreciate it. I have no problem with people coming up to me and saying, only once ever has somebody come up to me and said something negative. 99% of the time.
That's crazy.
I'll never forget that because it was when I was in Birmingham, I was on a date with a girl before I met my now wife, and we were at dinner, and this guy comes up and he's like, hey, are you Matt? I was like, yeah, man, how's it going? He goes, your show sucks. And I go, okay,
my
cool.
gosh.
I go, thanks for listening. He goes, I don't listen. And I go, well, how do you know it sucks?
Right.
I literally said that,
Right.
and he didn't know how to respond. He walks off, and he
How
goes,
do
oh
you
my God, I'm
respond?
so sorry. He's like, that dude listens all the time.
Yeah.
She's like, really? You're not bothered? I was like, no. I mean,
Yeah.
He
How you
just
got-
wanted
it's
to make
another
an
listener.
impact. And he knows now you remember him.
oh,
You know?
I do. I don't remember who it was.
You know
but
what? He probably
good for
knew
him.
you from Friendly Fire, and he wanted to.
That could be.
If he was referencing that, I agree with
That
him.
was the show he was referring
Yeah,
to.
he was
Oh,
like,
okay, then
oh,
I feel bad now because
Man,
he's right.
You were the perfect mark. We just feel like you nailed that role.
The anger that I brought to that was so passionate and intense.
Okay, we always have these quick questions that we always ask everybody. We'll go
But do you believe in aliens? Is
right.
another
I was
one.
going to say
That's
we
one of them.
already got that one answered.
Yes.
And we also already did first car. If you had one superpower, what would it be?
Man, that's an interesting question. Sometimes I want to say invisibility.
See, that's I think mine.
We've talked about that, and you're going to hear things you don't want to hear.
That's a good point.
That's
yeah.
probably true. And then now, if I could be like the Flash and just get from here to, oh, hey, you want to go to Denver?
That's a good one.
Yeah.
I'd like that. Or maybe it's the ability to teleport yourself somewhere, but something like that.
Okay.
The ability to travel far distances very
And just
quickly.
That's a
Be
great
anywhere.
one.
Like
Yeah.
I would love if I could wake up in the morning an hour later and be like, oh, I got to be at work in 2 minutes. Pew, and then there I am, you know?
That's a great one. That's a good one. Jay, do you have any?
What kind of music here?
Yeah, there you go.
A lot of different stuff. I mean, I like a lot of Texas country, like Pat Green. I love
Yes.
Pat Green.
Still like him.
Yeah.
He's my all-time favorite. I got into this guy named Dylan Gossett recently, who is really good. Randy Rogers, who went
Yeah.
to Texas State,
Yeah.
like his stuff. Josh Abbott. And then I like a lot of this. It's called synth pop, which is kind of like the Killers, but a little bit more synthy than that. So
Okay.
the Midnight, the Strike, Ollie Ride, Max Cruz, just random stuff. And then growing up when I did in the 90s, Matchbox 20 is
Yeah.
huge to me. Huge Fleetwood Mac fan, Bruce Springsteen,
Yeah.
kind of that classic rock type vibe. A little bit of all that. type
I
of stuff.
literally the other there's that what's the station? It's I can't remember, but it's a station that shows all these concerts on
Oh, a Palladium?
not Palladium, but it's like that. It's like
Okay.
AWS or AL. I forget what it is. AXS. Anyway, and they played the Fleetwood Mac concert. They had a whole
Oh man,
like hour and a half show.
phenomenal live.
And I just popped on. I'm like, Fleetwood Mac. All right, I'll listen to it. I'm working, and all of a sudden, I just caught myself like, that's a good song. Oh yeah, it's a good. I was
love
all in.
Fleetwood Mac.
I was all in. I didn't know I would be that into a
So
Fleetwood
good.
Mac deal. I've always liked them, but never like, man, that's a good concert. Even though I'm watching it on TV or whatever.
Hey, how'd you meet your wife?
Yeah,
How
that's a
did
good
that-
one.
We met at a tailgate when I was living in Alabama.
Oh wow.
And so
She was
Yeah.
just there.
yeah, and we just kind of hit it off. And I don't think that either one of us was trying to look for anything serious. I was actually dating a couple other people at the time. She knows this. I mean, and so it's one of those things where I was just like, man, you are really cool. And she's a little bit younger than me, but I was like, I just want to spend time with you
Yeah.
and not these other people. So apparently now girls just want you to ghost them, I guess is what they call it. Because I drove to this one girl's house to tell her, hey, I met someone else, and I don't, I just wanted to let you know
Right.
I've enjoyed hanging out with you, but
Yeah.
I just want to focus on
Be
her.
respectful of.
That girl
yeah.
got so mad at me. She's like, you drove here to tell me this. I was like, well, what do you want me to do? You could have just texted me. I was like, really?
I've heard you can't text it.
I was like,
You
it's a
can't-
losers,
You can't
but
break
yeah.
up the text.
So
Yeah.
that's how we met, yeah, and we kind of hit it off, and it probably took a little bit of time to figure some things out, but yeah.
I wouldn't know what to do. It's 30 years. How long you and Allison been married?
Why'd you ask me that?
I put you on the spot.
1998.
That's, huh?
1998.
Oh, 1998. So 26 years.
Ooh,
27.
how does
yeah,
that
depend-
happen? How does that happen?
We're 30. Yeah. Wow. Imagine dating now, Jay.
Oh,
You've had to go through it. You just recently. No, y'all were dating over
Yeah,
10 years.
we were together. We got engaged after we had been together 7.5 years. 'Cause
Okay.
we just got married last April.
you were slow. Was she like, oh, are you going to ask?
No,
or-
she was totally cool with it.
Okay.
Yeah, and
what
I
made you go, okay, it's time?
It was her. She was at a point. I'd had a really bad car wreck, and I think she was like, we should get married. 'Cause
She looks like a great girl.
Yeah.
yeah, she's awesome.
She's got that mix of pretty and sweet face.
yeah, she's
Which
super
is
chill.
which is not that common.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, she's really chill. We have a great time together. Like, we just enjoy hanging out. And so we had been together 7.5 years. And then we got engaged, and I mean, we were engaged for like a year and a half before we ended up getting married. So we were together.
No rush.
Yeah.
We were together 9.5 years by the time we got married. Well, I told her, I was like, I'm not going anywhere. I have no desire to try to date some people and be out and about. I was like, whatever. So you want to get married, we'll get married. If not, it's all good. So.
That's great. Okay, what's your biggest fear? Aliens?
No, not aliens. Not aliens.
Now that he's masked it with some medical
I think,
thing.
and I probably would have answered this differently in years past, because for a while it was the unknown.
Okay.
And I've gotten past that point. I think my biggest fear now is, because having gone through some of the things I've gone through, is not being true to myself.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, making sure that regardless of what it is, and always be evolving.
Yeah.
And learning and trying to say, okay, who am I and who do I want to be? Like, I would hate to come off in an unauthentic way.
Yeah. Okay.
That's amazing.
See,
I love
that's better than my answer, which is clowns. Matt's so deep and he has all this perspective.
I do hate clowns. I hate clowns
I hate
too.
clowns. I hate clowns.
I don't really ever run into them. So it's all right.
But I mean, when we had to take our kids to the circus all the time when they were younger.
Oh man, yeah, that was
I
fun.
hated the clowns.
Now, do you always remember mine? That I'm going to go broke.
Oh, that's right.
So here's what, let me tell you the latest news. If you haven't heard, interest rates are the 7s.
That's right.
I'm broke. But you know what?
Hey.
I'm all right.
Hey, come join us.
fine.
You do our mortgages. You know the self-employed graphic designer ain't exactly
It's
rolling in dough
everybody
right
right
now. Yeah.
But you know what? When that hits you, when you thought
Yes.
was, I mean, it's been rough.
Yeah.
It's been rough.
Yeah.
But you know what? I've got my kids. I've got my wife. We're healthy.
Yeah.
We're
That's
okay.
it. You have to look at the
We're
perspective.
okay.
My son the other day
Exactly.
made a great point. He goes, man, you have to identify. He goes, other people don't identify when you're a parent. Like, I'm the being self-employed where you ride that roller coaster. He goes, one
so
month
tough.
we're millionaires and we can do
Yes.
anything we want. Next month is like, no, get the cheap bread. And
Yes.
we're going to put something over noodles for
Right.
supper again
Yeah.
tonight.
What is happening?
It's
I'm
a
telling the
roller
girls,
coaster
get
ride.
$9 of gas.
Right.
No need to fill up.
Right.
You know,
Right.
it's like back when I was
Does
16.
McDonald's still
and
have
you
that
put
dollar meal?
And you hope
could be
the card
rough, man.
works.
Yes, yes. Please work, please work. Or if you're at a restaurant with other people,
Man, I've been
and I always
there.
do the lie where you're like, "Hey, this is a new card. Not sure if it'll work or not." When I've had it
Did you
forever.
go
I just
through
don't know
that
if
as
there's
a waiter?
funds.
Yeah, wait, I would
I
do
always
that.
tried to be real cool and get the guy like,
Yeah, like, hey.
because you don't want to go to the table.
I'm like, I can't get this card to work. Do you have another card or something? Maybe I don't know what it is. It's probably me.
Our
Yeah, that's
machine's
the-
acting weird.
Yeah, that's the yeah. If
nice
you've ever
one.
been called
Very cool
out in
about
front of everybody, like. And I haven't. I've had the.
I haven't.
I've had the where the guy's like, hey, and and you'll go over there, or he'll kind of sit it down with the sheet, and he'll write. I've had it where they've written on the thing, hey, the card didn't go through,
that's
but
really
everybody
nice.
else thinks I'm still getting the receipt,
Yeah.
or whatever. And
I
so-
make sure, I get on the app or would call
sure,
right before you go.
right.
Credit limit is where you have $42.16. I'm like, okay,
Mine's-
order accordingly.
Mine's
Yeah.
always a text to Autumn as I'm sitting there. Hey, which card do I use?
Which one can
is
go?
this an expense? Is this a business expense?
Man, the worst
So-
is when you go to get gas and you're like $2 in and the pump shuts off. You're like, what? Oh, you're like, oh no. And then you check.
Oh, yeah.
You're like, oh no. What am I going to do? That's happened to me. It's been years, but that is horrible.
It
It's
is.
the worst.
It's tough,
Yeah,
man.
it's the
It's tough. And I'm trying to think of it. Let's see here. Oh, what past jobs that you had in high school and stuff? Like, where you already talked a little bit about Blockbuster and stuff.
So around here in high school, I worked at Luigi's Italian Cafe, but before it moved into its current location, remember it used to be in the strip center
Yes.
where Pizza Inn was, and then it
Yes.
took
That's
over
right.
that. Yeah, so I worked there for just a
Good food. I love it.
yeah,
Every
love-
time.
love
we need to get
Luigi's.
Mario on the podcast.
Yeah, he'd be
Yes.
great. He's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He is
he's,
crazy.
like
but
it.
he's awesome.
Ratcliffe had him at the inauguration. He got. Oh no, I'm sorry. At the inauguration, Mario got
asked
to go.
him?
Yeah, I saw some
No.
photos. Yeah, he got
Dude,
to go to the inauguration.
Oh, my first job was working at Kroger when it was where 24-hour fitness is now.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes.
I worked there as a sacker, and then I had another job where when Walmart was where Hobby Lobby is.
Yeah.
I had a job working Walmart. I hated that.
I hate it. I worked at TG&Y. Do you remember TG&Y? That was the same
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of thing.
Yeah.
Same. It's the worst job ever. Is working that.
Yeah, and I
Walmart.
couldn't stand it, and I wanted to quit so bad, but my dad's like, no, you got to have a job.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, but I applied at the video store. I think I'm going to get it. And he goes, well, you can leave that job when you get it.
Exactly.
And thank God Video Village called me. There used to be multiple Video Villages.
Right.
And I worked at mainly the one that was in Rowlett where the Dollar General is now off of 66.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the one down here where whatever that is, Party City or whatever it is now.
Right.
Those are the two main stores. But they had a couple other locations that closed. And I ended up, my junior and senior high school worked at Video Village. And when I was going to Collin County, I was the manager of the one over in Rowlett. And I loved that job. That was awesome.
So Video Village, that was a pretty big one too. Video Village here, wasn't it pretty good sized?
Yeah, the one
Not
that was
the little room on the side. That was
That's right.
Yeah, no, it was
so seedy.
I think at the time, I'm pretty sure that's true. It was the biggest video store in Texas.
Okay, was it? I remember it being massive.
The one that was over by Brookshire's or whatever is in that strip center now. Yeah.
It was huge.
Oh, that's old yard when you said one by Brookshire's. Brookshire's hadn't been there in 20 years or whatever.
I forget what it is now.
No, I still do it. I still remember Grandma's Chicken. Remember Grandma's Chicken?
Yes.
That's where the flower shop is now or whatever.
Yes.
And when I first met Autumn lived in a garage apartment right behind, it used to be Shirey's Barbecue. And now it's Route 66. It's right there off 66.
Yeah.
There's a lot there now, but there used to be a little garage apartment, and she lived up there. And I was like, I can't pick a better person. I got a great girlfriend, and she lives behind a barbecue restaurant. This is greatness.
That is pretty awesome.
Yeah. So
that's like what are they calling this? The Londoner Coyote Rojo place now?
No, it's
changed names 9 times.
Right.
I forget what Chandler's in it, something like that.
I have no idea
It's
what
a
it
bar,
is.
but people like it.
No, that's that.
No.
No, it's. I mean, right here. You know
exactly.
Yeah.
I think the
It's
place
been-
is cursed.
It's been
Nothing's
County
made.
Rojo.
Dude, it
It's
is
been
wild.
Smitty's. It's been
Smitty's. I forgot about Smitty's.
It was
Started out
It was a
with
Londoner
Smitty's.
for a long time.
Londoner, and then but now it's but everybody goes to it now. A lot of people go to it.
I've never been.
It starts with a C.
And we live across the street from it.
Really?
Yeah,
you would
yeah,
think
you
would
do.
know.
Yeah.
We go to Ben 303. You go together?
Yeah, I've been there before. Yeah, I've been through
And
it.
Zanata's.
We
Zanata's
always-
fantastic. My mom and
Zanata's,
dad go to
yeah.
Zanata's a lot. Yeah,
We
I like
love
that place.
Zanata's, and then Charlie's.
Charlie's is
tacos.
awesome.
Yeah,
Wayne is
Charlie.
such a good dude, man.
Yeah,
the
it's a
guy
good
that
place.
started
Wells
that.
Burger.
Wells.
Hard to beat that burger.
Yeah, that's a
and of
good
course
one.
Boots. Did
Yeah,
you
Boots.
grow up having Boots?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
We had Boots on here. We had.
We did.
Yeah.
That was all. Man, he knew a lot about Rockwell.
Old Mooney. Yeah.
I can only imagine.
And he brought us Boots burgers.
Wade's
I mean,
Landing.
that is such
It was
old school.
awesome.
It's Wade's Landing.
Wade's Landing.
Wade's
Wade's
Landing.
Like I
Landing.
said, start with a C.
Yeah,
Yeah, but that place has been like 6 or 7 things.
Yeah.
It's
It
like-
has. It's the Bermuda Triangle
Yeah.
of
Well,
Well, I
restaurants.
wish these guys well. Maybe they'll.
I know. I hear good things. A lot of people like going there and stuff.
It's
well,
funny-
the Londoner was there for a little bit. It stayed.
It was
for a
there
while.
for a few years. It seemed
Yeah.
like.
Yeah.
But it had been so many different things, and it's funny to like see the development of what Rockwell is. That when we moved here in '92, I remember like on that south side of 30, it was Lakeside National Bank and
Yeah.
Kroger, and then nothing.
Yeah.
nothing. Literally
That was
nothing.
it.
Oh, we were talking the other day. Remember when Brahms was on the other side of 30 on the south side? It was just by itself. There was
Yeah.
Brahms and like a vet was over there. That was
Yes.
it.
And of course, the Walmart where the now is Hobby Lobby.
Hobby Lobby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they built
Yeah.
that Walmart over on top of a road that you used to be able to cut through to the new.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
right.
I was a freshman the first year that the high school was open. Was my freshman year, and that was funny because I swear we had off-campus lunch when Taco Bell and that stuff was opened up, and we used to go to Taco Bell like every single day. Like,
Still
oh my
my
God,
favorite
off-campus
restaurant.
lunch.
That's my favorite restaurant.
This is amazing.
Is it really?
Seriously.
But some of those-
if I was in prison, death row,
Last meal.
last meal, Gordita Crunch, Tucson
Really?
Taco. Oh gosh,
Really?
Yeah, it's the best food on
They're like,
earth.
man, this
Come
is
on,
great. The best food on earth.
and I've had $500 dinners.
Yeah.
and I leave,
it's awesome.
and I go get Taco Bell.
See,
Did you go puke in their bathroom? I hate the
no,
steak.
because the food is this little.
This Wagyu steak is horrible.
I remember
Give me
going
that beef burrito.
back to college days when you would go spend all your money on adult beverages, and you had I'd have $3 left. We would go to Taco Bell. Back then, the bean burrito was like 59 cents or something.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, 6 bean burritos. Well, what do you want to drink? Oh, I'll drink out of the water fountain.
Ooh,
I'm
and the
spending all
hot
my money.
sauce.
Yeah.
You put the hot.
But you would just get bean burritos.
I mean,
'cause
to
you
be
could get a
fair,
ton of
you
them.
can eat pretty good there for like $2.30.
Oh yes,
really could.
Yeah,
Really could.
that's
Especially
true.
back then,
But
yeah.
Taco Casa's. I'm a Taco
Casa's
Casa
legit.
guy. more over. But
There are no
Taco Bell
Taco Bell.
changed their meat a little bit or something. I'm not on board. I mean, I'll eat it. It's fine, but I'm a Taco Casa guy.
Okay.
But then we go back to Mario and Luigi's. I remember when Luigi's was over there on the
in the strip center,
yeah. And then they moved over where it used to be like that building he's in. I think it used to be like a Napa or something, or it was something else before.
Was that Pizza Hut?
Oh, maybe it was a Pizza Hut. Yeah, maybe it was a Pizza Hut. He changed the whole building, but that location used to be either. I think you're right. I think it was a Pizza Hut.
Because there used to be a Pizza Hut over there. That might have been that building.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, what's your dream? What do you want to do? 10 years from now, what do you really want?
This? Like doing what I'm doing now. Like I want to do this.
Do you want your own show?
No, not really. I don't feel the need for that. Like hopefully Donnie will want to keep doing that for another decade. I would love to do.
Y'all hang out. You really like each other?
Yeah. I love the dude. Like he's fantastic. I love the whole show. I love being a part of the station. I would like to be here. You know, Norm retired in his late 70s.
Right.
I would love to do this for 30 years till I'm 75 years old and do this and have the opportunity to be able to do that. It would be what I want. You know, and then travel probably a little bit more would be nice and all those types of things, you know.
Could you see pursuing acting again?
Maybe. I don't know. I would never say no to that. Like if the right opportunity came along and the understanding of radio is my passion. I love doing this, but the right thing came along. I'd love to play the right character and do something like that. It would be a lot of fun to do.
Do you, as a radio personality, do you have an agent?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have somebody that kind of helps you out with stuff. And,
Oh wow, I didn't think about that.
Book stuff for you.
not that it's
Or did you fire them when they booked you for this show?
no, but you have somebody that helps with contract stuff.
Okay.
Because that can get contract stuff and negotiations, and there's a lot of different things that you can get. And
But if you were to write a book and you say, hey, I want to go on these few shows, that person.
maybe, I don't know. I've never asked, so maybe. I mean, usually
See, we need to talk. I could.
All right.
So, but like when you do the remotes, I remember when we would do the remotes. Like I said back in the day, the radio guys show up. They got a talent fee.
Yeah.
You get this still that happens.
yeah.
Okay, so you get a talent fee and all that.
Yeah.
And so I was just want to see if that was.
Yeah,
still
we have
a thing.
different fees for different things, and
Right.
there's and there's so many little different things in your contract that you can have, and depending, you can negotiate this and that, and but we want that, and it's a bunch.
Billy's going to write your check after. He's like,
let me find my card. I'll give you a card.
The card we were talking
so I'm
about.
not sure if it works, but
Awesome.
But yeah, man, we appreciate you coming here. This
This is great. I really appreciate it.
So fortunate you were here.
Awesome, man. I really
And
appreciate
your
it.
story is
Yeah, it's a great story.
fascinating. Like you never gave up.
Yeah, for whatever
Through all
reason.
I just love that. And then here you are.
Yeah.
It's inspirational.
Yeah, I appreciate that very much. I appreciate you guys having me.
You bet, man. We love it. You have come back at some point. Maybe
I'd
after-
love to come back.
Yeah.
I love having conversations.
How often
like
do you
this.
come back to Rockwall? Do you come back a lot or not? Because family's not really here anymore, right?
No, my mom and dad live down the road. They,
Oh, that's
they
right,
live
that's
like
right. You said
5
they-
minutes from
that's right,
here.
that's right.
And so, yeah, I'll come out here every once in a while. Football season tends to be really, really busy.
Yeah.
Weekends, there's a lot going on. But I'll start coming out a lot more to have dinner and see
Okay.
them and stuff. And
Well, you're always welcome in the booth.
I appreciate that, man. Yeah, we'll make that happen.
Okay.
That'll be
All
fun.
right. Yeah,
We've got a
that'll be
super
good.
fan, Tyler Wimpy.
Yeah.
When he found out you were on, he's out at the Torrey Pines. They're doing a golfing thing in San Diego.
Nice.
And he found out you were on. He was like, no. And
So shout out to Tyler.
Hold that
Shout out
over
to
on
Tyler.
Yeah, Tyler, man.
And Sea-Dog, you did great. You did great with all the.
We
all
got
the
it together.
It
keep
took a
up.
second to jump back into it, but once I did it,
There you go.
You
There
got
go.
it.
You got
There
it,
you go.
man.
You got it going. Once we
Knocked it
figured out
out.
those knobs.
Left is
We might need to
softer,
label
right
them.
is louder.
next one, just so I know.
Well, there you go. Matt, appreciate you, man.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah,
Appreciate y'all.
thank you.
Awesome.
All right, we'll see y'all next time.
Near the shore, I could think of things I never thought before. And then I'd sit and